Well, hello there, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful day. It is me, PieRatKing, here again for your viewing pleasure with a special episode of PieRat TV as we decide what we're going to do with the Democratic debate. What's going on, Dust? And Zay, how are you doing? So, if y'all don't know, tonight is oh my goodness, the freaking bit rate. There we go. Tonight is the second official Democratic debate. It's being held on CNN. We can talk about it as it goes on. We're going to discuss all the issues that they bring up. How many times they say Orange Man bad. The talking points. I am a little bit toasty in my room right now, actually, Zay. I'm a little bit toasty right now. Tonight there is Miss Williamson, Ryan Klobuchar, I can't ever say him. Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg, Bernie Sanders. I'm trying to remember who else was on. Let's see. Hold on. I have it here. Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren is tonight, Beto O'Rourke, John Hickenlooper, John Delaney, and Steve Bullock are all going to be on tonight's debate. That starts in approximately 5 minutes. 10 minutes by them because they're showing a delay. Because, God, can we discuss how horrible the auto-updating on Twitter is to make it to where you can freaking post a new live, a new post? Ugh. This is probably one of the most frustrating things about the new Twitter. Hold on, I'm finishing up this tweet because, Twitter's being stupid. Sorry about that, guys. I'm usually on the ball. Had a nice little dinner, though, tonight, so it was pretty good. Tomorrow night we will also be doing the same, unless I am arrested or something else comes up. But I hope y'all are having a wonderful day. Jeff, Jeff, is there a Jeff? So. How is everybody doing? I hope y'all had a wonderful week so far. I've delayed Teamwork Tuesday to Teamwork Thursday now. Kirsch has been informed, so we will be doing that on Thursday night instead. Friday for the normal PieRat TV. I think I might just take the night off instead, and then be back on Saturday. We'll see. We'll see how I feel. Because I don't think I'll be going until 1 a.m. with this, because I doubt that it will be going until 1 a.m. But we'll definitely talk about the debate. We'll talk about the questions and the way the people answer it. We'll talk about afterwards. We'll have a little bit of a recap. And then we'll prepare for tomorrow with Kate Gillibrand, Castro, Booker, Biden, Andrew Yang. Who else is tomorrow? They're just over here talking right now. That's all they're doing. Just talking. I could totally turn this into a drinking game, but I won't. Zay, how is your face doing? How are you doing? Did you like my meme from earlier? My meme was great. Oh, this coffee is tasty, by the way. Super, super tasty. 7 minutes and 2 seconds. Trying to figure out. I know Don Lemon, I don't know what it is. Don Lemon is one of the people on the panel asking questions. Who else is there? Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. And it's being held in the Fox Theater in Detroit, Michigan. So we will definitely, let's see what they're saying. What are they saying?
But to the people sitting at home,
oh my goodness.
They want to know, how are you going to help my life? How are you going to make sure my kid gets a college? I agree with you. Hey, Governor.
Oh, that guy. Ugh. Sorry. some of the people on here, I'm just that I have no respect for most mainstream media and most mainstream journalists. They are definitely have lost a lot of kudos from me, honestly, because it's all clickbait now. You think YouTube's bad? Check out mainstream media. Clickbait all over the place. And we discussed it a little bit the last debate with some of the talking points that they had last time, especially with their, you know, when they use edited. Deacon! Sorry, my dog apparently decided to say hello. Hold on 1 second, guys. Alright, I'm back already. Sorry, I had to let the dog out of the room. He was being a jerk. Can I just skip? Yeah, go to live, please. And redo your bitrate. Fix itself. Alright, because it's going to be starting here in about a minute. We will watch it through. Hold on, let me see if I can pull this up.
Democratic presidential debate.
There's Dana Bash, Don Lemon.
Right now, the road to the White House.
The road to the White House.
The
Let me do something real
Democrats are
fast.
in Michigan for a premier two-night event, a defining moment that will determine who gets left behind and who takes on President Trump.
This is our chance.
There is no middle ground. Don't let anybody tell you that freedom is a conservative value. It is an American value.
Tonight, a fight for the heart of the party. Senator Bernie Sanders.
Actually, I kind of liked the way that looked before.
It is a question of getting our priorities right.
Going head-to-head with Senator Elizabeth Warren. Longtime friends fighting for the same cause and the same voters.
We should
Actually, I'm just gonna move it over here.
fight hard and win.
Sorry, I was trying to figure out a good way to display this.
Against a crowd of more moderate challengers. Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
Buttigieg has a uphill. Beto has a really big uphill battle.
I'm running to serve you as the next president of the United States of America.
4 candidates will put their
I'm surprised he wasn't standing on a table there.
Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar.
I know Klobuchar has a pretty good grassroots following.
Congressman Tim Ryan.
It's time for us to unify this country.
And Montana Governor Steve Bullock in his first presidential debate.
Well, yeah, that's because that jerk Eric Swalwell is no longer in. He dropped out recently.
Congressman John Delaney. We can do it. And Washington outsider Marianne Williamson.
She got a lot of love last debate. I'm just letting y'all know.
Now, the stage is
I don't know why.
the biggest presidential field in history.
She wants to defeat everybody with love, though. So I like her. I like that. You know, we should defeat everybody with love.
As a permanently red state.
This democracy must come together. We must repair it.
There is nothing that will stop us.
Democracy is not for sale.
Oof. I don't know, Elizabeth Warren. I'm pretty sure you've sold some democracy before. Oh, let me pull up Zemix Play.
Good evening from the historic Fox Theater in downtown Detroit, Michigan. This is the CNN Democratic presidential debate. Welcome to our viewers in the United States and
In
around
the US.
world, watching us on CNN.
Does it need to be louder? I can turn it a little bit louder.
CNN en Espanol, CNN.com, and listening on SiriusXM and the Westwood One radio network. And a special welcome to the U.S. military members, diplomatic corps and their families serving overseas and watching on the American Forces Network. I'm Jake Tapper, anchor of The Lead and State of the Union, along with CNN's chief political correspondent, Dana Bash, and Don Lemon, anchor of CNN Tonight.
We are looking forward to moderating one of the largest gatherings of Democratic presidential candidates in back-to-back debates. 20 candidates were divided in two groups by random.
I'm just trying to find the proper way to do this.
Group of 10 will appear on the stage at this time tomorrow night. The first 10 will make their entrance right now.
So please welcome from Vermont.
CNN, I think your graphic is broken. All right, there's Bernie, who has lost a lot of his following recently. Last I saw, I think Elizabeth Warren, Biden, and Kamala were still the top three. Good to see you. Like you didn't just see him back behind. Sorry.
From Texas, former Congressman Beto O'Rourke.
There's been some memes about this, and it's been pretty funny.
From Minnesota, Senator Amy Klobuchar.
Is Tulsi tomorrow night? I think so. I think Tulsi Gabbard's tomorrow night. Did I say Tulsi Gabbard? Or did she get left out? Oh, she got left out this time. I think. I don't know. I can't remember.
From Ohio, Congressman Tim Ryan.
All the introductions. Super boring.
From Maryland, former Congressman John Delaney.
Was Delaney the one we were teasing?
Author Marianne Williamson.
Oh yeah, she's not even like in politics. She just writes. She's an author.
From Montana, Governor Steve Bullock.
It's like a tunnel all the way through.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Democratic candidates for President of the United States.
Well, half of them. This is half of them. The other half will be on tomorrow night.
Now, please rise for the presentation of colors from the James Europe VFW Post 2233 and the District 4 Honor Guard. And please remain standing for our national anthem performed by Detroit's own Pastor Marvin Winans and the Perfecting
it's an M1
Church Choir.
Apparently it's raining outside.
So gallantly stream.
All right, so there's some interesting happenings that happened on, or things that was said on Twitter before, because they posted pictures of the stage getting prepped for this, and there was a lot of talk about how there wasn't even a single American flag on stage. And as we could see, there's now a big giant one on the screens in the back. And then you had the color guard who's probably going to go take their flags back and then pack up and leave.
The stage is set. The debate will begin right after this short break.
Oh, yay, break. Alrighty, break number 1. We are, 10 minutes in. So, anyways. We're just going to continue just talking and hanging out. If y'all have any preference, like who out of that lineup do y'all want, would y'all like to see the nomination? I mean, because it's going to be really tough for a lot of the lesser known people. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it was Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, and Joe Biden were like the top 3, with Bernie lagging behind. Everybody else up there's got maybe anywhere from 5% to like 0.5% of the votes, or the polling. Sorry, right now. Personally, I would like to see Andrew Yang get a little bit more airtime. Would like to see Tulsi Gabbard get a lot more airtime, since she's not in. I don't think she's even invited to this time's debate. But she's also has her own things going on right now. So, what am I doing? I'm looking at some other stuff on the side over here, sorry. As I listen to the rain pour down behind me. I'm sorry, I'm reading something right now. Bum, 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 bum. Alright, sorry. Just reading some stuff. Reading some stuff going on here. Alright, and they're back on again.
Welcome back to the CNN Democratic Presidential Debate Candidates. We're about to begin opening statements, but first a review
Opening statements will be interesting.
of the ground rules that your campaigns agreed to earlier this month to ensure a fair debate. As moderators, we will attempt to guide the discussion. You will each receive 1 minute to answer questions, 30 seconds for responses and rebuttals, and 15 additional seconds if a moderator asks for a clarification. The timing lights will remind you of these limits. Please respect that, and please refrain from interrupting your fellow candidates during their allotted time. A candidate infringing on another candidate's time will
I'm reading some stuff right now.
Reduced. We also want to ask our audience inside the historic Fox Theater to remain silent when the candidates are actively debating. The candidates need to be able to hear the questions and hear one another.
Time now for opening statements. You'll each receive 1 minute. Governor Steve Bullock, please begin.
Thanks, Dana. I come from a state where a lot of people voted for Donald Trump. Let's not kid ourselves. He will be hard to beat. Yet watching that last debate, folks seem more concerned about scoring points or outdoing each other with wish list economics than making sure Americans know we hear their voices and will help their lives. Look, I'm a pro-choice, pro-union, populist Democrat that won 3 elections in a red state. Not by compromising our values, but by getting stuff done.
That's what most people want. We want stuff done.
showing up.
It makes a big difference if people are talking and saying this is what we're going to do and not ever doing anything.
That farmer getting
To
hit
me,
right
at least,
now by Trump's trade
that's
wars.
very important to me.
That teacher working a second job just to afford her insulin. They can't wait for revolution. Their problems are on the here and now. I'm a progressive, emphasis on progress, and I'm running for president to get stuff done for all those Americans Washington has left behind.
Marianne Williamson.
In 1776, our founders brought forth on this planet an extraordinary new possibility. It was the idea that people, no matter who they were, would simply have the possibility of thriving. We have not ever totally actualized this ideal, but at the times when we have done best, we have tried. And when forces have opposed them, generations of Americans have risen up and pushed back against those forces. We did that with abolition, and with women's suffrage, and with civil rights. And now it is time for a generation of Americans to rise up again. For an amoral economic system has turned short-term profits for huge multinational corporations into a false god. And this new false god takes precedence over the safety and the health and the well-being of we, the American people, and the people of the world, and the planet on which we live. Conventional politics will not solve this problem, because conventional politics is part of the problem. We, the American people, must rise up and do what we do best and create a new possibility. Say no to what we don't want and yes to what we know can be true. I'm Marianne Williamson, and that's why I'm running for president.
She's an interesting outlier because she's not part of the normal politicians continuing their politicians.
Want to take us with bad policies like Medicare for all, free everything, and impossible promises that'll turn off independent voters and get Trump reelected. That's what happened with McGovern. That's what happened with Mondale. That's what happened with Dukakis. Or we can nominate someone with new ideas to create universal health care for every American with choice. Someone who wants to unify our country and grow the economy and create jobs everywhere. And then we win the White House. I'm the product of the American dream. I believe in it. I'm the grandson of immigrants, the son of a construction worker. My wife, April, and I have 4 amazing daughters. I was the youngest CEO in the history of the New York Stock Exchange, created thousands of jobs, and then served in Congress. That's the type of background, and my platform is about real solutions, not impossible promises that can beat Trump and govern. Thank you.
Congressman Tim Ryan.
America is great, but not everyone can access America's greatness.
Here comes,
systems that were built,
I think, the immigration
are now suffocating the American people. The economic system that
Oh,
used to create
sorry, I
30,
sneezed.
40, $50
I sneezed.
an hour
I sneezed.
jobs that you can have a good, solid middle-class living, now force us to have 2 or 3 jobs.
Thank you, Barry.
just to get
Thank
by.
you.
Most families, when they go to sit at the kitchen table to do their bills, they get a pit in the middle of their stomach. We deserve better. And the political system is broken too, because the entire conversation is about left or right. Where are you at on the political system? And I'm here to say this isn't about left or right. This is about new and better.
What do you mean, who is up in my books? I'm a fan of Yang and Tulsi Gabbard. I know they have the slimmest of shots of getting the nomination.
That are realistic. And that are
I'm not a huge fan of Tulsi, some of Tulsi's domestic views, but I'm a big fan of her anti-war state stance.
And not one of those 40 Democrats.
And I like Andrew Yang because he's a honest individual. I feel like he's an honest individual who is willing to sit down and try to see stuff from other people's viewpoints.
Until I started what became the largest group hub
And
in America.
I think a lot of what
Small business lessons.
I think a lot of what these candidates are missing is the ability to sit down and tell the people voting for them and say, look, I'm going to look at it from our point of view, but I need to know where they're coming from as well. Because we're not just, individuals in this country. We aren't. I mean, we're not all just like a collective group. We're all individuals. We all have our own viewpoints. We all have our own belief systems.
Battery low.
So
To provide solutions to
we're not all going to agree on everything all the time. Sorry, I got
together
and create
plug in my
jobs.
headset.
That's how we're going to beat Donald Trump. That's how we're going
Because
to
apparently I forgot to plug it in
battery.
earlier.
Senator Amy Klobuchar, let's get real. Tonight we debate, but ultimately we have to beat Donald Trump. My background, it's a little different than his. I stand before you today as a granddaughter of an iron ore miner, as a daughter of a union teacher.
Oh, I agree too.
Newspaperman, as the first woman elected to the U.S. Senate from the state of Minnesota, and a candidate for President of the United States. That's because we come from a country of shared dreams. And I have had it with the racist attacks. I have had it with a president that says one thing on TV that has your back, and then you get home and you see those charges for prescription drugs and cable and college. You're going to hear a lot of promises up here.
So,
But I'm gonna tell you this. Yes, I have bold ideas, but they are grounded in reality.
we're blaming
And yes, I will make
Trump
simple
for
promises.
prescription
I stand in
drugs
this,
when they've been
I'm from
consistently
the
going up
Midwest, and I have
over
won
the
every
past,
race,
2
every state, every
decades.
time. And I will govern with integrity, the integrity
Huh.
worthy
Interesting to
of
me.
the ordinary people of this nation.
Like, I agree with her, though. I agree that, prescription drugs are going up,
Because I believe
and they need to
that
be
America discovers its greatness
worked on.
at its moments of greatest need. This moment will define us forever. And I believe that in this test, America will be redeemed. In the face of cruelty and fear from a lawless president, we will choose to be the nation that stands up for the human rights of everyone, for the rule of law,
Right to
for
try act.
everyone, and a democracy that serves.
No, I agree, Mimi. I'm all for trying to make, but part of that problem here, part of the pharmaceutical problem is that the ability to make generics for pharmaceuticals is not there for like 10 years. So there's no competition to the original creator of that drug.
At this moment of truth, let us pursue
So that they can
our
just,
national
until the
purpose
moment
and
that
make
a generic can come out, they can bust that price up as however high they want, because that's something you need to live, or that's something you need to get better.
President because our country is running out of time.
So I mean, lowering the
Ask yourself how somebody like Donald Trump ever
ability to make
gets to
generics
the Oval
needs to
Office
happen.
in the first place. It doesn't happen unless America is already in a crisis. An economy that's not
Yeah,
working for everyone.
exactly, Mimi.
Endless war,
They can change
climate
one
change.
tiny ingredient and hold the patent again.
In my industrial Midwestern
Which is why there's only one distributor of the EpiPen, and it's been around for years.
and it's only accelerating. Science tells us we have 12 years before we reach
So, I mean-
the horizon of catastrophe when it comes to our climate. By 2030, the average house in this country will cost $500,000, and a woman's right to choose may not even exist. We're not going to be able to meet this moment by recycling the same arguments, policies, and politicians that have dominated Washington for as long as I have been alive. We've got to summon the courage to walk away from the past and do something different.
See, I don't like that he brought up the fact that the average house in the United States is going to be $500,000, because the problem with the U.S. is cities like New York or L.A. where their prices are $1 million, $2 million for a 4-bedroom house, where you can go to the middle of the country and buy a house for, like, Detroit. I found a house in Detroit for like less than $100,000, and it was a 4-bedroom house.
Donald Trump is part of a corrupt.
It was in a decent area, and had, it was a newer house. But you can't say the average house in the United States when property prices differ from city to city, let alone state to state.
With small ideas and spinelessness. We're going to solve them by being the Democratic Party of big structural
DSV,
change.
exactly. You could, like, to say, the average house in the United States is going to be $500,000 by 2035. That is what, 10 years from 15 years from now? No, I lied. 11 years from now. 15 years from now, yeah. Anyways, it's in the future by 15 years. That is going to go up to $500,000 for an average house, when there's millions and millions of houses in millions and millions of different places.
But
the healthcare industry made $100 billion in profits last year. Tonight, as we speak, right now, 500,000 Americans are sleeping out on the street, and yet companies like Amazon that made billions in profits did not pay one nickel in federal income tax.
That's not true, Bernie. Stop pushing that. We all know it's not true.
People are living paycheck to paycheck.
Part of the reason they don't pay income tax is because they work in states that don't have state income taxes.
The industry continues to receive hundreds of billions of dollars in subsidies and tax
That's interesting. I want to see where he got his numbers for the $500,000.
We have got to take on Trump's racism, his sexism, xenophobia, and come together in an unprecedented grassroots movement to not only defeat Trump, but
also, Amazon did pay an income tax because they have to pay the tax that they pay. That's why they collect it from their employees.
Number one issue for Democratic voters, health care. And Senator Sanders, let's start with you. You support Medicare for all, which would eventually take private health insurance away from more than 150 million Americans in exchange for government-sponsored health care for everyone. Congressman Delaney just referred to it as bad policy, and previously he has called the idea of suicide that will just get President Trump reelected. What do you say to Congressman Delaney?
Median means like the middle number. Average is out of all of them.
Right now, we have
like you add all of them and divide by how many houses.
87 million uninsured or underinsured, $500,000 Americans every year going bankrupt because of medical bills, 30,000 people dying while the healthcare industry makes tens of billions of dollars in profit.
Bernie, go to the VA. I'm telling you, go to the VA. Please. Please go to the VA. Go spend 6 hours waiting to go get your prescription filled at the fucking VA. Sorry, I didn't mean to curse. The freaking VA. Please. Go get told that your hearing loss wasn't because of your time in the service, even though there's proof that you had good hearing before you joined the service, and then after you get out of the service, you have really bad hearing. Go to the VA. When you fix the VA, then you can come back at me with the universal health care. Please. This is the only thing I ask. If you want to come and convince me that universal health care, that government-ran health care is the way to go, fix the VA. Make it to where the VA has computers that are built in the last 4 years instead of 10 years ago. Sorry, that makes me really heated.
We're going to come to you in 1 second, but let me go to Senator Sanders right now. Senator Sanders?
Or, they lose your freaking medical files every time you turn around. Oh, your medical files burned in a warehouse 10 years ago. Well, I had them last time I was here. Well, they burned 10 years ago.
If you want stability in the healthcare system,
if you want stability in the healthcare system, freedom of choice is what it is. You have to be able to purchase health insurance from whatever health insurance company in the entire country you have access to. Whisper, I know.
But now he's talking about a different issue. What I'm talking about is really simple. We should deal with the tragedy of the uninsured and give everyone health care as a right. But why do we got to be the party of taking something away from people?
No one is the party.
That's what they're running on. They're running on telling half the country that your health insurance is illegal. It says it right in the bill.
All right, thank you.
We don't
It
have
does.
to do that. We can give everyone health care and allow people to have choice. That's the American way.
Look,
Thank you, Congressman. Senator Warren?
So look, let's be clear about this. We are the Democrats. We are not about trying to take away health care from anyone. That's what the Republicans
No,
are
you are trying to force everybody off of their private insurance onto a government-ran insurance.
in order to talk with each other about how to best provide that health care. Now, I want to have a chance to tell the story about my friend, Addie Barkett. Addie is 35 years old. He has a wife, Rachel. He has a cute little boy named Carl. He also has ALS, and it's killing him. Addie has health insurance, good health insurance, and it's not nearly enough.
I'm staying with you. I'm staying with you, but you exceeded your time, and so let me just stay with you on Medicare for all.
All right.
At the last debate, you said you're, quote, with Bernie on Medicare for All. Now, Senator Sanders has said that people in the middle class will pay more in taxes to help pay for Medicare for All, though that will be offset by the elimination of insurance premiums and other costs. Are you also, quote, with Bernie on Medicare for All when it comes to raising taxes on middle-class Americans to pay for it?
Giant corporations and billionaires are going to pay more. Middle-class families are going to pay less out of pocket for their health care. And I'd like to finish talking about...
No, yes, less out of pocket because you're forcing everybody to pay taxes that are raising their taxes. But they're not all going to see the same benefit from those taxes because not everybody gets sick. Not everybody goes to the hospital for every little thing. Not everybody goes to the doctor for every little thing. I have the ability to go to the doctor whenever I want because I'm covered by the VA. I don't, ever. If I go to the doctor if I have a serious problem or for my yearly checkup. That's it. And I haven't had a serious problem in years. So...
is taken as much money as you can in premiums and pay out as little as possible in health care coverage. That is not...
Also, what would help fix the healthcare institution is the fact that we can't price hospitals. We can't look at what hospitals cost before going to the hospital. We can't look at how much a doctor is going to cost before going there because the cost is worked on between the insurance companies and the doctor.
Middle class families total costs will go down.
Governor Bullock, I want to bring you in. You do not support Medicare for All. How do you respond to Senator Warren?
No, healthcare is so personal to all of us. Never forget when my 12-year-old son had a heart attack within 24 hours of his life. Had to be life-flighted to Salt Lake City. But because we had good insurance, he's here with me tonight. At the end of the day, I'm not going to support any plan that rips away quality health care from individuals. This is an example of wish list economics. It used to be just Republicans who wanted to repeal and replace. Now many Democrats do as well. We can get there with a public option, negotiating drug prices, ending...
Thank you, Governor Bullock. I want to bring in Mayor Buttigieg.
Wow, he got no time at all.
The middle class should pay higher taxes in exchange for guaranteed health care and the elimination of insurance premiums. How do you respond, Mayor?
So we don't have to stand up here speculating about whether the public option will be better than, or a Medicare for All environment will be better than the corporate options. We can put it to the test. That's the concept of my Medicare for All who want to proposal. That way, if people like me are right, that the public alternative is going to be not only more comprehensive, but more affordable than any of the corporate options around there. We'll see Americans walk away from the corporate options into that Medicare option, and it will...
Yes, because you're forcing them to pay the taxes for it.
Just 15 seconds on the clarification. You are willing to raise taxes on middle-class Americans.
You have to. You have to raise taxes to pay for this. You have to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
That's the idea of Medicare for All who want to. Look, this is a distinction without a difference, whether you're paying the same money in the form of taxes or premiums. Look, in this country, if you have health coverage, if you don't have health coverage, you're paying too much for care. And if you do have health coverage, you're paying too much for care.
I want to bring in Congressman O'Rourke on the topic of whether the middle class should pay higher taxes in exchange for universal coverage and the elimination of insurance premiums. What's your response?
The answer is no. The middle class will not pay more in taxes in order to ensure that every American is guaranteed world-class health care. I think we're being offered a false choice. Some who want to improve the Affordable Care Act at the margins, others who want a Medicare for All program that will force people off of private insurance. I have a better path. Medicare for America. Everyone who's uninsured is enrolled in Medicare tomorrow. Those who are insufficiently insured are enrolled in Medicare.
Just 15 seconds.
And those who have employer-sponsored insurance.
Yes, and doctors already deny treating people on Medicare. They already do. Doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, they already deny help or care for people on Medicare because the government makes it so difficult for those individuals to get paid. Of course they are lifeless. I mean, that's all politics is pandering for votes.
So let's actually build on it. A public option allowing anyone to buy in. You know, we pay more for prescription drugs than any place actually in the world. We got nothing to show for it. Negotiate prescription drug prices. In surprise medical billing. That's the way that we can get there without disrupting the lives of 160 million people
Congressman
who
O'Rourke,
like their
you can
employer-sponsored health insurance.
Congressman O'Rourke, you can respond.
Every estimate that I've seen of expanding ACA, even through a public option, still leaves millions of people uninsured, and also means that people are not guaranteed the health care that they need, as the example that Senator
Well, the ACA has already made it to where if you don't get insurance, you're taxed on it, and you're fined. Sorry, not taxed. You're fined for it.
Their employer-sponsored insurance. When we listen to the American people, and this is what they want us to do, they want everyone covered, but they want to be able to maintain choice, and our plan does that.
Thank you, Congressman. I want to bring in Senator Klobuchar. Senator Warren, at the beginning of the night, said that Democrats cannot win the White House with small ideas and spinelessness. In the last debate, she said, the politicians who are not supporting Medicare for all simply lack the will to fight for it. You do not support Medicare for all. Is Senator Warren correct? Do you just not lack the will to fight for it?
That is incorrect. I just have a better way to do this. And in one of my first debates, Jake, I was called
one of my biggest problems is none of them have talked about tort reform. None of them have talked about opening up insurance to where there's not only two insurances running an entire state.
Down for everyone. And by the way, I just don't buy this. I've heard some of
None of them
say that it's somehow not moral if you not moral.
I'm doing good, Sunlit Puppet. How are you doing?
Well,
I'm doing real good.
Was actually on a public option bill last year, and that was Bernie, the Medicaid public option bill that Senator Schatz introduced. Clearly, this is the easiest way to move forward quickly, and I want to get things done. People can't wait. I've got my friend Nicole out there whose son was actually died trying to ration his insulin as a restaurant manager, and he died because he didn't have enough money to pay for it.
Senator,
and Bernie and I have worked on pharmaceutical.
Thank you, Senator.
That's good to hear.
We can get less
Senator Sanders.
expensive
I'm going to go to
drugs.
Senator Sanders, then Senator Warren, because you both were mentioned.
The author
Senator
of
Sanders.
the Medicare bill, let me clear up one thing. If people talk about having insurance, there are millions of people who have insurance. They can't go to the doctor, and when they come out of the hospital, they go bankrupt. All right? What I am talking about, and others up here are talking about, is no deductibles and no co-payments. And Jake, your question is a Republican talking point. At the end of the day, and by the way,
because taxes will go up, Bernie. The only way to pay for this is by increasing taxes.
Senator Warren, it's your turn.
Money to pay for this doesn't come from nowhere.
Senator Warren.
So we have to think of this in terms of the big frame. What's the problem in Washington? It works great for the left.
I'm actually libertarian, Sunlit Puppet.
Hire armies of lobbyists and lawyers.
But I am running for president in 2020 under the NoPants Party. PRK 2020.
To fight back against them. These insurance companies do not have a God-given right to make $23 billion in profits.
Yes, they do. They have the right.
They do not have
the problem is that y'all made it to where it's regulated so much that there's no competition. And I'm talking about everybody. Everybody that's been in the politics for the past 30, 40 years has regulated healthcare so much that it's become to where there's no competition. There's no way for us, the consumer, to choose.
The public option is great, but it doesn't go far enough. It doesn't go far enough. I'm proposing universal health care where everyone gets health care as a basic human right for free, but they have choices. My plan, Better Care, is fully paid for without raising middle-class tax options. So when we think about this,
so where's the money come from, Delaney?
Thank you, Congressman. I want to bring in Governor Hickenlooper. Governor Hickenlooper, I'd like to hear what you have to say about Senator Warren's suggestion that those people on the stage who are not in favor of Medicare for all lack the political will to fight for it.
Well, obviously I disagree with that as much as I respect both of the senators to my right. You know, I think it comes down to that question of Americans being used to being able to make choices, to have the right to make a decision. And I think proposing a public option that allows some form of Medicare, that maybe is a combination of Medicare Advantage and Medicare, but people choose it, and if enough people choose it, it expands, the quality improves, the cost comes down, more people choose it. Eventually, in 15 years, you could get there, but it would be an evolution, not a revolution.
Thank you, Senator Warren.
You know, we have tried this experiment with the insurance companies. And what they've done is they've sucked billions of dollars out of our healthcare system. And they force people to have to fight to try to get the healthcare
because there's only 2 health insurance companies per freaking state. It's the same problem we have with the internet. So, due to a Telecommunications Act from, I want to say the 70s, we only get two options for internet in your area. Other than that come through land lines, come through lines through the land. Your telephone company and your cable company. Those are the only 2 that have the ability to lay wire in cities. So that's why there's a AT&T and a Comcast. That's why there's, you know, Suddenlink and AT&T basically. So only having those 2 options make it to where those 2 internet companies can charge whatever the hell they want, because they don't have to worry about any competition. They're just them 2. That's how the health insurance industry has become so powerful, is because in your state there's only really 2 health insurance, maybe 3, but there's very limited. So you don't get the option to pay for, you know, say you live in New York and you see a health insurance in Montana that is cheaper and does better for you and would cover you better. You can't go and buy that option from that insurance company because it's illegal, because of regulations put on by Congress and by previous Congresses that won't change it. They won't fix it. They won't change that one little thing. That's all they need to do. And we will see at least a drop in the cost of healthcare, along with the fact that I believe we should be able to shop for our healthcare and look at doctors and see how much one doctor is compared to another doctor. You know, kind of. And that's one of the reasons why the dentist industry has become more affordable. It's still expensive, but the dentistry industry has become more affordable because people can go and say, okay, this dentist office will do this procedure for $2,000. This one will do it for $1,500. I'm going to go over here because this person's going to do it for $1,500, and that's all I can afford.
Here we are in Detroit, home of the United Auto Workers. We have all our union friends here tonight. This plan that's being offered by Senator Warren and Senator Sanders will tell those union members who gave away wages in order to get good health care that they're going to lose their health care because Washington's going to come in and tell them they got a better plan. This is the left and right thing. New and better is this. Move Medicare down to 50. Allow people to buy in. Kaiser Permanente said that if those 60 million people do that, they will see a 40% reduction in their health care costs.
This is getting ridiculous. The amount of time that they keep giving Bernie and Warren compared to everybody else up there. Everybody else is trying to make a point, and they keep going back to Bernie and Warren and letting them interject and respond and everything.
But can you guarantee those union members that the benefits under Medicare for All will be as good as the benefits that their representatives, their union reps, fought hard to negotiate?
Well, 2 things. They will be better because Medicare for All is comprehensive. It covers all health care needs for senior citizens. It will finally include dental care, hearing aids, and eyeglasses.
But you don't know.
Second of all,
you don't know that.
Second of all,
I do
know, and I wrote the damn bill. Second of all, many of our union brothers and sisters, nobody more pro-union than me up here, are now paying high deductibles and co-payments. And when we do Medicare for All, instead of having the company putting money into healthcare, they can get decent wage increases, which they're not getting today.
I want to bring in Congressman Ryan to respond to what Senator Sanders has said.
Senator Sanders does not know all of the union contracts in the United States. I'm trying to explain that these union members are losing their jobs. Their wages have been stagnant. The world is crumbling around them. The only thing they have is possibly really good health care. And the Democratic message is going to be, we're going to go in, and the only thing you have left, we're going to take it, and we're going to do better. I do not think that's a recipe for success for us. It's bad policy.
Honestly, Tim Ryan, I think, is telling the truth here, because most of the unions they are talking about are like your auto workers, which are being replaced by robots. And most of those union workers are seeing their jobs taken either overseas or taken over by automation.
It covers 80% of the cost of care in this country, and private insurance covers 120%. So if you start underpaying all the health care providers, you're going to create a two-tier market where wealthy people buy their health care with cash, and the people who are forced, like my dad, the union electrician, who will have that health care plan taken away from him.
Thank you,
They
Congressman.
will be forced into an underfunded system.
I want to give Senator Sanders a chance to respond.
On the Medicare for all, the hospitals will save substantial sums of money because they're not going to be spending a fortune doing billing and the other bureaucratic things that they have to do today. Second of all,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
did that and made
You want to know where they spend most of their time doing billing?
nonprofit healthcare system.
With Medicare and Medicaid.
Furthermore, when we save $500 billion a year by ending all of the incredible complexity,
Because dealing with an insurance company is a lot easier as a medical professional. From the doctor and the psychiatrist I've talked to about this, discussing or dealing with the insurance companies is so much easier than it is dealing with the government when it comes to healthcare.
Specifically, I think it's in Section 1200 of their bill, then many hospitals in this country would close. I've been going around rural America, and I asked...
That's why a lot of doctors, psychiatrists, and other medical professionals have turned away from helping those on Medicare and Medicaid because they'd rather not deal with all the bullcrap from the government.
Why can't we just give everyone health care as a right and allow them to have choice? I'm starting to think this is not about health care. This is an anti-private sector strategy.
We're going to move on to the issue of immigration now. There is widespread agreement on this stage on the need for immigration reform, a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants, including dreamers, but there are some areas of disagreement. Mayor Buttigieg, you're in favor of getting rid of the law that makes it a crime to come across the U.S. border illegally. Why won't that just encourage more illegal immigration?
When I'm president, illegally crossing the border will still be illegal. We can argue over the finer points of which parts of this ought to be handled by civil law and which parts ought to be handled by criminal law, but we've got a crisis on our hands. And it's not just a crisis of immigration, it's a crisis of cruelty and incompetence that has created a humanitarian disaster on our southern border. It is a stain on the United States of America. Americans want comprehensive immigration reform. And
yes.
frankly, we've been talking about the same framework for my entire adult lifetime. Protections for dreamers, making sure that we have a pathway to citizenship for the undocumented, cleaning up lawful immigration. We know what to do. We know that border security can be part of that package, and we can still be a nation of laws. The problem is we haven't had the will to get it done in Washington. And now we have a president who could fix it in a month because there is that bipartisan agreement. But he needs it to be a crisis rather than an achievement. That will end on my watch.
Just a point of clarification, you did raise your hand in the last debate. You do want to decriminalize crossing the border illegally.
So in my view, if fraud is involved, then that's suitable for the criminal statute. If not, then it should be handled under civil law. But these show of hands are exactly what is wrong with the way that this race is being covered.
We're not doing that here.
We appreciate that.
Thank you. Congressman O'Rourke, you live near the U.S.-Mexico border in El Paso. You disagree with Mayor Buttigieg on decriminalizing legal border crossings. Please respond.
I do, because in my administration, after we have waived citizenship fees for green card holders, more than 9 million of our fellow Americans, freed dreamers from any fear of deportation, and stopped criminally prosecuting families and children for seeking asylum and refuge, and for-profit detention in this country, and then assist those countries in Central America so that no family ever has to make that 2,000-mile journey, then I expect that people who come here follow our laws.
How do you here? This is my problem. I'm all for helping out the people to make it where they don't want to make that trip all the way up here, but how? Because if you're just going to fund money to their governments aren't going to distribute it and help out their people. We can look at Costa Rica. Costa Rica has been one of the biggest benefactors of the United States for years, but they still have a high rate of poverty. They still have a high rate of crime, and a lot of it is that's just how things go. Even though they're getting millions and millions of dollars from the United States, they're getting military protection from the United States where they don't have to have their own military, and they could put more money into education.
Would you decriminalize illegal border crossings?
The point is not about criminalization. that has given Donald Trump the tool to break families apart.
Thank you, Senator.
We need
Governor Hickenlooper, your response.
Just throw money in it. Yeah, that's
I agree that we need secure borders. There's no question about that. And the frustration with what's going on in Washington is they're kicking the ball back and forth. Secure the borders. Make sure whatever law we have doesn't allow children to be snatched from their parents and put in cages. How hard can that be? We've got, I don't know, on the 2 debate nights, we've got 170 years of Washington experience. Somehow it seems like that should be fairly fixable.
Well, and one way to fix it is to decriminalize. That's the whole point. What we're looking for here is a way to take away the tool that Donald Trump has used to break up families.
and Obama and Bush and Clinton and every president before.
In the White House. I believe that immigrants don't diminish America. They are America. And if you want to do something about border security, you first of all change the rules so people can seek asylum in those northern triangle countries. Then you pass the bill, and what the bill will do is it'll greatly reduce the deficit and give us some money for border security and for border help processing the cases. And most of all, it will allow for a path to citizenship, because this is not just about the border. Donald Trump wants to use these people as political pawns.
Thank you, Senator
When we have
Klobuchar.
people all over our country that simply want to work and obey the law.
Senator Sanders, you want to provide undocumented immigrants free health care and free college. Why won't this drive even more people to come to the U.S. illegally?
This will have a strong border protections. But the main point I want to make
But
is that what
strong border protections while decriminalizing illegal immigration.
a group of people, and as president,
Like,
I will end that demonization.
You're talking out both sides of your mouth, Bernie.
Miles on a dangerous path. In my view, they are not criminals. They are people fleeing violence. And I think the main thing that we've got to do, among many others, and Beto made this point, we've got to ask ourselves, why are people walking 2,000 miles to a strange country where they don't know the language? So what we will do...
You want to know why? This is why people are making those trips. Is because we have put out there that the United States is the best nation in the freaking world. For years, for decades, for almost a century. We have put out there into the world that the United States is the best place for everybody.
You haven't gone that far. Why not?
And we give them this hope and this dream that they will be successful. And honestly, they're making more money here in the United States. They're doing better all around here in the United States. I actually really like Dan Crenshaw jangles. No, I know Bernie. That's one of the reasons Bernie has started losing a lot of his fan base and his the people that back him.
It's Donald Trump. He's using immigration to not only rip apart families, but rip apart this country. We can actually get to the point where we have full, safe borders, where we have a path to citizenship, where we have
I'm all for fixing the way to get people in more citizenship.
Criminalize everything. What you have to do is have a president in there with the judgment and the decency to treat someone that comes to the border.
Yeah, no, it
as
is.
one of our own.
You know, I just
Senator,
like to add on this.
he just said your plan is unrealistic. How do you respond?
You know, I think that what we have to do is we have to be an America that is clear about what we want to do with immigration. We need to expand legal immigration. We need to create a path for citizenship, not just for dreamers, but for grandmas and for people who have been working here in the farms and for students who have overstayed their visas. We need to fix the crisis at the border. And a big part of how we do that
if I was not already an American and I was from some other country and I heard all this and one of them becomes the president and they say we're not going to deport you, we're not going to charge you with a crime for overstaying your visa, guess what I'm doing? I'm getting a visa for one weekend of visiting the United States and never leaving.
And using this to rip families apart. A sane immigration system needs a sane leader. And we can do that without decriminalizing, providing health care for everyone. And it's not me saying that. That's Obama's Homeland Security Secretary that said you'll cause further problems at the border, not make
You will.
What you're saying is ignore the law. Laws matter. And it matters if we say our law is that we will lock people up.
No, they know. Burry, they know. The problem is that they've lived off of, it's Trump's problem. It's because of Trump. It's because of Trump. It's because of Trump. When, if you've been paying attention, it was Obama who started a lot of these programs, and the media throws it out there and spins it the way that they want.
To incentivize undocumented immigrants to come into this country illegally?
Yes.
Yes.
And right now, if you want to come into the country, you should at least ring the doorbell.
Yes.
We have asylum laws. I saw
We do.
kids up in Grand Rapids, not far from here. It is shameful what's happening. But Donald Trump is doing it. And even if you decriminalize, which we should not do, you still have statutory authority. The president could still use his authority to separate families. So we've got to get rid of Donald Trump. But you don't decriminalize people just walking into the United States. If they're seeking asylum, of course we want to welcome them. We're a strong enough country.
But we need to investigate whether their claims for asylum are justified.
Buy health care too. I mean, everyone else in America is paying for their
This,
health care. I don't think
one of my things is they keep bringing up asylum, they keep bringing up asylum, they keep bringing up asylum. The reason why so many people are claiming asylum is because they know that they will stay here longer while their case gets sent through the courts and gets sent through the court process. So by claiming asylum, they know they have a longer time here before they're sent back to wherever they came from. This is just how it goes. It's smart on their part to claim asylum, even if they are legitimate in their claim for asylum. That is the smart way to do it. Go into the country, get caught, and as soon as you get caught, claim asylum, because you know it's going to make it longer before you are actually sent back.
We should be the party that talks not just about symptoms, but also about causes. When we're talking about health care, we need to talk about more than just the health care plan.
I mean, I have no problem with refugees from war-torn countries like Somalia, like Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen. You know, I have no problem with them seeking asylum here in the States, but as long as they go through the process of getting asylum verified, I don't have a problem with them staying.
Let's turn now to the issue of gun violence. There were 3 large-scale...
I do think that we need to change the way that the path to citizenship is, because it's super expensive. I did a whole episode on PieRat TV on how expensive it is to become a citizen here in the United States, and I think that it's a little bit ridiculous.
Well, this epidemic of gun violence has hit my community too, far too many times. It's the worst part of being mayor, getting the phone call, consoling grieving parents. And we have a mass shootings worth of killings every day in this country. What we're doing hasn't worked because we haven't had a system in Washington capable of delivering what the American people have told us they want. 80–90% of Republicans want universal background checks, not to mention the common sense solutions like red flag laws that disarm domestic abusers and flag mental health risks. And
I don't like red flag. I do, but domestic violence abusers already are flagged, and I don't agree with red flagging people because they had a mental instability for 1 minute.
What we're going to do about schools?
Like I have a problem with that, because there becomes a place where do you draw the line? Okay, so this person has a small breakdown. Do you automatically disqualify him from being able to purchase firearms because of one small breakdown at one moment?
Without having to worry about whether you're going to get shot. And when 90% of Americans want something to happen, and Washington can't deliver, we can't expect.
Thank you, Mayor. Governor Hickenlooper, your response, please.
I disagree with his diagnosis.
Please stand by, Senator.
Of the problem.
Please stick to the rules. We'll get to you. We'll come to you in just a minute. Governor Hickenlooper, please respond.
Well, this is the fundamental nonsense of government. Another
Universal background checks are also already a thing.
Make any progress. When I went to the movie theater in Aurora in 2012 and saw that footage of what happened at that crime scene, I'll never forget it. And we decided, that we were going to go out and take on the NRA, and we passed, as a purple state, we passed universal background checks. We limited magazine capacity. We did the basic work that, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to be able to get done in Washington.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Klobuchar, please respond.
Limited magazine capacity doesn't do anything either.
Or it's not just about words.
Just carry more magazines. It's not about the NRA, because the NRA freaking gives less money than the ACLU does to Congress.
And I watched and wrote down when 9 times he said he wanted universal background checks. The next day he goes and he meets with the NRA and he folds. As your president, I will not fold. I will make sure that we get universal background checks passed, the assault weapon ban, that we do something about magazines, and that we understand when that little 6-year-old boy died, Stephen Romero, when his dad said he's only 6 years old, all I can say is he's 6 years old.
My problem with this is assault weapon ban. Okay, we already have automatic weapons banned in this country. They have been since the 80s. I can show you a bunch of guns, firearms, and rifles that don't look anything like the assault weapons, whether they're an AK, they look like an AK, or they look like a M16. I can find you the exact same weapon with a wood stock.
They won't prevent every incident, they won't save every life, but we know what to do.
Limiting the magazine capacity does nothing. Absolutely nothing. Do you like? You can carry 100 freaking plastic magazines on you. Like, not literally 100. You can carry a bunch of plastic magazines that weigh literally nothing other than the ammo. How is that going to change anything?
There must be a better way. Then we elected people in the House of Representatives, and guess what? It changed, and they passed universal background checks.
Universal background checks are already a thing. The only thing you don't have to get a background check for is between private and private sales. And the majority of private to private sales are between family members.
Democrats trust you to be the leader on this fight for gun safety when you only change your position to call for an assault weapons ban.
No, I know, Jingles.
Summer.
You're like 40% of American households. I'm a gun owner. I hunt. Like far too many people in America, I've been personally impacted by gun violence. Had an 11-year-old nephew, Jeremy, shot and killed on a playground. We need to start looking at this.
Oh, yeah, of course, Barry.
As a public health issue, not a political issue. I agree with Senator Klobuchar. It is the NRA. And it's not just gun violence. It's when we talk about climate, when we talk about prescription drug costs. Washington, D.C. is captured by dark money, the Koch brothers and others. That's been the fight of my career. Kicking the Koch brothers out of Montana, taking the first case after Citizens United up to the Supreme Court, making it so that elections are about people. That's the way we're actually going to make a change on this, Don, is by changing that system. And most of the things that folks are talking about on this stage, we're not going to address until we kick dark money and the post-Citizens United corporate spending out of these elections.
So,
what your response?
No politician should be able to raise any money at all. Got it. That's what he just basically said.
Number that no other country comes even close to, that we know what all the solutions are.
Yes, other countries come close to it.
Is because
get rid of no lobbyists. Lobbyists aren't allowed to be in there anymore, and nobody's allowed to donate to political. That's the only way to fix anything that they're talking about right now.
Political Action Committee contributions.
No PAC money.
Any member of Congress or any candidate for federal office, we will listen to people, not PACs. People, not corporations.
So that way, only the richest people can run for office.
Just months after the Sandy Hook massacre, and I quote here: "If you pass the strongest gun control legislation tomorrow, I don't think it will have a profound effect on the tragedies we have seen." Do you still agree with that statement today?
I think we have got to do. I think what I meant is what President Obama said, and that nobody up here is going to tell you that we have a magical solution to the crisis. Now, I come from one of the most rural states in America. I have a D- voting record from the NRA. And as president, I suspect it will be an F record. What I believe we have got to do is have the guts to finally take on the NRA. You asked me about my record back in 1988, coming from a state.
The biggest problem is that
for the ban of the sale and distribution of assault weapons. I lost that election. I will do everything I can.
The biggest problem with it is that they're saying that they're going to do it as the president when this is something that is Congress's job to do.
And do away with the loopholes that now exist for gun manufacturers who are selling large amounts of weapons into communities that are going to gangs.
Yeah. Mayor Buttigieg, your response?
Oh, really?
It's still the conversation that we've been having for the last 20 years. Of course we need to get money out of politics. But when I propose the actual structural democratic reforms that might make a difference, end the Electoral College, amend the Constitution if necessary to clear up Citizens United, have D.C. actually be a state, and
the biggest problem with we've talked about it before. The biggest problem with getting rid of the Electoral College is then you have 3 states running the entire thing. The entire show is done between 4 states.
So you couldn't drink. And then change it back, because we changed our minds about that.
California, Texas, New York, and Florida. Those will be the only 4 states that matter in the election. Florida actually has higher, Florida has a higher population than Illinois. Cali, Texas, New York, and Florida. Those will be the only states that matter in the presidential election. Everybody else will be whatever.
You're going to have to disclose every one of those dollars in the last 90 days. I'll never forget run for re-election in 2016. Even we stopped the Koch brothers.
And even then, you're focusing on the big cities in those 4 states. You're focusing on New York City, LA, San Francisco, Houston, Dallas, Austin. Or not even Austin. Houston, Dallas, Miami.
Governor Bullock, thank you very much. Ms. Williamson, how do you respond to this issue of gun safety?
The issue of gun safety, of course, is that the NRA has us in a chokehold. But so do the pharmaceutical companies, so do the health insurance companies, so do the fossil fuel companies.
Yeah,
so do the
just focus on big cities. Ignore anybody in the rural zones because they won't matter anymore if the Electoral College is gone.
Pass legislation that establishes public funding for federal campaigns. But for politicians, including my fellow candidates, who themselves have taken tens of thousands and in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Thank you, Williams.
From these same corporate donors to think that they now have the moral authority to say we're going to take them on. I don't think the Democratic Party should be surprised that so many Americans believe yada, yada, yada. It is time for us to start over with...
She just dropped the freaking mic right there.
Donations from any of these corporations and can say with real moral authority, that is over. We are going to establish public funding for federal campaigns. That's what we need to stand up to. We need to have a constitutional amendment. We need to have legislation to do it. And until we do it, it's just the same.
She just said the smartest thing all night. She said the smartest thing all night. Right there. I'm going to take a real quick break while they're taking a quick break because I'm going to go refill my coffee. I will be right back. Hopefully I won't miss much. So, be right back.
Michigan. In poll after poll, Democratic voters say that they want a candidate who can beat President Trump more than they want a candidate who agrees with them on major issues. Governor Hickenlooper, you ran a Facebook ad that warned, quote, socialism
Sorry about that,
is
guys.
not the answer. The ad
I missed
also said,
missed
quote,
this.
don't let extremes give Trump 4 more years. Are you saying that Senator Sanders is too extreme to beat President Trump?
I'm saying the policy, this notion that you're going to take private insurance away from 180
You don't know who Williamson is?
who many of them don't want to get
She is a author, a spiritualist author.
Or you're going to,
Here, I'll,
the Green New Deal, make sure that every American is guaranteed a government job that they want. That is a disaster at the ballot box. You might as well FedEx the election to Donald Trump. I think we got to focus on where Donald Trump is failing. You know, the word malpractice, and this is interesting. I always thought it was doctors or lawyers. It's, you know, negligent, improper, illegal, professional activity for doctors, lawyers, or public officials. Google it. Check it out. Donald Trump is malpractice personified. We've got to point that out. Why is it soybean farmers in Iowa need 10 good years to get back to where they were 2 years ago? Where's the small manufacturing jobs that are supposed to come back? Why are we lurching from one international crisis to another? All things that he promised American voters. We've got to focus on that and the economy and jobs and training so that we can promise a future for America that everybody wants to invest in.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Sanders, you are a proud Democratic socialist. How do you respond to Governor Hickenlooper?
Well, the truth is that every credible poll that I have seen has me beating Donald Trump, including
the same polls that had Hillary beating Donald?
Where I won the Democratic primary, Wisconsin, where I won the Democratic primary, and Pennsylvania. And the reason we are going to defeat Trump and beat him badly is that he is a fraud and a phony, and we're going to expose him for what he is. The American people want to have a minimum wage, which is a living wage.
That is not true.
I've helped lead that effort. The American people want to pay.
Your small business owners do not want a $15 minimum wage.
Not the highest price in the world. I've helped lead the effort.
Thank you, Senator. Governor Hickenlooper, I want to bring you back to respond.
So, again,
You know who wants the minimum wage to be $15 an hour? Your giant corporations, because they can absorb the cost.
But you haven't. I can do it. But you haven't implemented the plans. Us governors and mayors are the ones that we have to pick up all the pieces. When suddenly the government's supposed to take over all these responsibilities, and there's no preparation. The details aren't working. You can't just spring a plan on the world and expect it to succeed.
Senator Sanders.
I agree with him.
I was a mayor, and I helped transform my city. I have some practical experience. Second of all, interestingly enough, today is the anniversary of Medicare. 54 years ago, under Lyndon Johnson and the Democratic Congress, they started a new program. After 1 year, 19 million elderly people in it. Please don't tell me that in a 4-year period, we cannot go from 65 down to 55 to 45 to 35. This is not radical.
Yeah, she's an author of a bunch of spiritualist books. Jangles. Like, she's a little kooky, but she's an outlier, and she's the only one that's freaking said something extremely, extremely intelligent tonight.
Please respond to Senator Sanders.
I would just say Hillary Clinton was winning in the polls too. To take a snapshot
Thank
of
you.
the polls today
Thank you.
and apply it 16 months from now, whenever it is.
She was winning in the polls up until the moment that the election happened.
Insurance away from union members in the industrial Midwest. We've talked about decriminalizing the border, and we've talked about giving free health care to undocumented
Yeah, she's a new age author.
workers when so many
Like I said, she's a little bit
Americans
kooky.
pay for their health care. I quite frankly don't think that that is an agenda that we can move forward on and win. We've got to talk about the working class issues, the people that take a shower after work,
The people who actually vote, and yeah, they have had a raise. That's a little bit of a push.
Bernie was talking about some of the battleground states in which we compete. There's a new battleground state, Texas, and it has 38 electoral college votes. And the way that we put it in play was by going to each one of those 254 counties. No matter how red or rural, we did not write you off. No matter how blue or urban, we did not take you for granted. And we didn't trim our sails either. We had the courage of our convictions, talking about universal health care, comprehensive immigration reform, and confronting the challenge of climate before it is too late. We brought everyone in, and now we have a chance to beat Donald Trump with Texas.
Thank you, Congressman. I want to bring Governor Bullock. We're talking about whether Democrats are moving too far to the left to win the White House. President Trump won your home state of Montana by 20 points. How do you respond, sir?
Yeah, as the only one of the field of 37 that actually won a Trump state, 25 to 30% of my voters voted for Trump.
Right, Mimi?
I know that we do have to win back some of those places we lost and get those Trump voters back if we're ever going to win. But this isn't just a choice between the left and the center. It's not a choice just between sort of these wish list economics or thinking that we have to sacrifice our values to actually win. What folks want is a fair shot. The way I won, the way we can win is actually focusing on the economy and democracy aren't working for most people.
Thank you,
That's
Governor.
how I win. That's how we can take back the office.
Senator Warren, you make it a point to
We
say
don't live in a
you're
democracy.
capitalist. Is that your way of convincing voters that you might be a safer choice than Senator Sanders?
No, it is my way of talking about I know how to fight and I know how to win. I took on giant banks and I beat them. I took on Wall Street and CEOs and their lobbyists and their lawyers, and I beat them. I took on a popular Republican incumbent senator, and I beat him. I remember when people said Barack Obama couldn't get elected. Shoot, I remember when people said Donald Trump couldn't get elected. But here's where we are. I get it. There is a lot at stake, and people are scared. But we can't choose a candidate we don't believe in just because we're too scared to do anything else. And we can't ask other people to vote for a candidate we don't believe in. Democrats win when we figure out what is right and we get out there and fight for it. I am not afraid. And for Democrats to win, you can't be afraid either.
Congressman Delaney, your response?
So I think Democrats win when we run on real solutions, not impossible promises.
Yes.
When we run on things that are workable, not fairy tale economics. Look at the story of Detroit, this amazing city that we're in. This city is turning around because the government and the private sector are working well together. That has to be our model going forward. We need to encourage collaboration between the government, the private sector, and the nonprofit.
Warren is going to be okay.
Focus on those kitchen table, pocketbook issues that matter to hardworking Americans: building infrastructure, creating jobs, improving their pay.
Thank you, Congressman.
Why?
Universal health
But why is there still bad water? Are we talking about Flint, Michigan?
Anybody goes to all the trouble of running for president of the United States just to talk about what we really can't do and shouldn't fight for. Our biggest problem in Washington is corruption. It is giant corporations that have taken our government and that are holding it by the throat. And we need to have the courage to fight back against that. And until we're ready to do that, it's just more of the same.
Maybe, well, most of the Flint, Michigan is interesting. They're supposed to be done redoing their finishing up their entire infrastructure to ensure cleaner water in Flint. It should be finished soon this year, at least the projections. The biggest problem with that is the fact that nobody had thought about fixing the water infrastructure
That's the equivalent of what Senator Sanders and Senator Warren
for years.
are proposing with healthcare. That's not a big idea. That's an idea that's dead on arrival. That will never happen. So why don't we actually talk about things, big ideas that we can get done? The
Thank you,
stakes are
Congressman.
too high.
Senator Warren.
Thank you for the sticker, Butsicle.
We'll come to you right after that. Senator Warren.
He talks about solutions that are workable. We have tried the solution of Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance. And what if the private insurance...
Oh, I went outside to take the dog outside and it's raining a little bit.
Billions of dollars out of our healthcare system. They've made everybody fill out dozens and dozens of forms.
Yeah, Flint itself was just in bad shape.
Trying to track your healthcare. They just want one more excuse to say no. Insurance companies do not have a God-given right to suck money out of our healthcare system.
Thank you,
and
Senator.
2020 is our chance to
Thank you,
stop
Senator
that.
Sanders.
Detroit was mentioned, and I'm delighted Detroit is rebounding. But let us understand, Detroit was nearly destroyed because of awful trade policy, which allowed corporations to throw workers in this community out on the street as they moved to low-wage countries. To win this election and to defeat Donald Trump, which, by the way, in my view, is not going to be easy. We need to have
did he just bring up
a campaign
NAFTA?
of energy and excitement and of vision.
I think he just brought up NAFTA.
Of young people into the political process in a way that we have never seen by, among other things, making
And the TPP. That's what he just brought up.
tuition free and canceling student
Thank
debt.
you, Senator. Thank you, Senator. I want to bring in Senator Klobuchar. At the beginning of the night, you said you're going to hear a lot of promises on the stage. And previously you have said, when asked about your primary opponents, quote, a lot of
Jangles,
people
what did
make
your dad do
promises
after
and I'm
that,
not gonna
though?
Make promises just to get elected. Who on the stage is making promises just to get elected?
Everyone wants to get elected, but my point is this: I think
All right, I just want to know.
The White House that has now told over 10,000 lies that we better be very straightforward with the American people. And no, do I think that we are going to end up voting for?
And in all honesty, Detroit kind of needed to die for a minute. They really did. The quality of their vehicles dropped super, super low in the early 2000s. There was a reason why most Americans were buying Japanese and German-made cars.
To the wealthiest kids? No, I don't think we're going to do that. So that's what I'm talking
Because
about.
people were willing to spend a little bit more for a better quality vehicle. That's why Detroit is starting to fail.
And I think how we win an election is to bring everyone with us. And yes, I am one in a state every single time.
I mean, look at the Ford Mustang from the early 2000s.
That Donald Trump won by over 20 points. He just targeted Minnesota last week. And I've done it by getting out there and talking to people, by knowing rural issues and farm issues, and bringing metro people with me in the state that had the highest voter turnout in the country.
I want to bring Congressman O'Rourke. Congressman O'Rourke, please respond.
You know, I think a big part of leadership and showing our commitment to the American people is delivering on our commitments. As a member of Congress, when I learned that the El Paso VA had the worst wait times for mental health care in the country, meaning that care delayed functionally became care denied and was related to the suicide epidemic, we made it our priority and we turned around the VA in El Paso. We took that lesson nationally, and I worked with Republican and Democratic colleagues to expand mental health care to veterans, and we got it signed into law by the one person with whom I agree on almost nothing, Donald Trump, to show that at the end of the day, we will put the American people first before party, before any other concern.
Thank you, Congressman O'Rourke. We've been asking voters to weigh in on what they
That is
like
rough,
to hear
Jangles.
Democrats debate. Among the topics they told us they're most interested in, the climate crisis. Congressman Delaney, I'll start with you. You say the Green New Deal is about as realistic as Trump saying Mexico is going to pay for the wall. But scientists say we need essentially to eliminate fossil fuel pollution by 20
That's really rough,
to avoid
Jingles.
the most catastrophic consequences. Why isn't this
Was that from his work at his original job then?
First of all, because it ties its progress to other things that are completely unrelated to climate.
I agree.
Like universal health care,
Delaney.
guaranteed government jobs, and universal basic income. So that only makes it harder to do. My plan, which gets us to net zero by 2050, which we absolutely have to do for our kids and our grandkids, will get us there. I put a price on carbon, take all the money, give it back to the American people in a dividend. That was introduced by me on a bipartisan basis. It's the only significant bipartisan climate bill in the Congress. I'm going to increase the Department of Energy research budget by 5-fold because we fundamentally have to innovate our way out of this problem. I'm going to create a market for something called direct air capture, which are machines that actually take carbon out of the atmosphere. But I don't think we'll
that's
get to
rough,
net zero
Jingles.
by 2050 unless we have those things. I'm going to increase investment in renewables, and I'm going to create something called the Climate Corps. That is a plan that's realistic. It's a bet on the U.S. private innovation economy.
All right.
And creates the incentive.
Who
to get
will
us to
talk
net zero by
nuclear?
2050.
That's what I want to know. I want to know who will bring up nuclear.
Senator Warren, you're a co-sponsor of the Green New Deal. Your response to Congressman Delaney.
So climate crisis is the existential crisis for our world. It puts every living thing on this planet.
Did he find
at
something
risk.
to
I have a plan for a green industrial policy.
what is it?
That takes advantage of the fact that we do what we do best, and that is innovate.
Occupy himself is what the
So
term
I
I'm
propose putting
trying to come up with.
$2 trillion in, so we do the research. We then say anyone in the world can use it, so long as you build it right here in America. That will produce about 1.2 million manufacturing jobs right here in Michigan, right here in Ohio, right here in the industrial Midwest. And the second thing we will do is we will then sell those products all around the world. Right now, For every $1 the United States spends trying to market around the world, China is spending $100.
Thank you, Senator Warren. Governor
Charging
Mr. Lucas
batteries.
Take issue with the Green New Deal. Please respond.
Well, I think the guarantee for a public job for everyone who wants one is a classic part of the problem. It's a distraction. I share the urgency of everyone up here. We have to recognize, I mean, everyone's got good ideas. What we do in this country is no better than just a best practice, right? It's what we do here is a best practice and a template.
Well, at least he didn't go through what a lot of people do when they become unable to work.
Cheating on international agreements and stealing intellectual property. We need to work on that, but not with the tariff system. We need every country working together if we're going to really deal with climate change in a real.
A lot of people become very depressed and suicidal.
Look, I put a real policy on the table to create 1.2
Well,
million
I mean, but he got past it.
jobs
This is what I meant.
in green manufacturing. There's going to be a $23 trillion worldwide market for
Which is what I was
this
taking from your
revitalized
becoming
huge
mentally
cities
moved
across
on.
this country, and no one wants to talk about it. What you want to do instead is find the Republican talking point of a made-up piece of some other part and say, oh, we don't really have to do anything. That's the problem we've got in Washington right now.
Guaranteeing work for everybody who wants it, and also applying a universal basic income are very detrimental
Where there are about 180,000
to the economy.
workers in auto manufacturing. Your state of Ohio has around 96,000 workers in that industry. Senator Sanders is co-sponsoring a bill that would eliminate new gas-powered car sales by 2040. Given the number of auto manufacturing workers in your state, how concerned are you about Senator Sanders' plan?
Well, if we get our act together, we won't have to worry about it. My plan is to create a chief manufacturing officer so we could actually start making things in the United States.
The automobile industry is already going to automation. It's not that, like, not going to be much more of a loss than already is being lost. Honestly, that's just me.
China dominates it now, 50 to 60%.
I think we should transfer over to hydrogen fuel cell and electric. Those should be our two options for vehicles.
Solar panels, same thing.
Though I also agree that I have a affinity for the gas-powered vehicles, and it still doesn't get rid of diesel engines because electric motors cannot do what diesel engines do. They just can't. Not at this moment. Not in this moment in technology.
Regenerative agriculture system that actually sequesters carbon into the soil, and you can go ask Gabe Brown and Alan Williams, who actually make money off of regenerative agriculture. So we can move away from all the subsidies that we're giving the farmers. They haven't made a profit in 5 years, and we can start getting good food into our schools and into our communities.
Thank you for the host, Duckles.
Your booty is mine.
Your booty is mine.
How do we start
Thank you,
talking about
Congressman
health
Ryan.
instead of just disease care?
Thank you. Senator Sanders, your response?
I get a little bit tired of Democrats afraid of big ideas. Republicans are not afraid of big ideas. They could give $1 trillion in tax breaks to billionaires and profitable corporations. They could
Thank you for the
bail out
sticker.
the crooks on Wall Street. So please don't tell me that we cannot take on the fossil fuel industry and nothing happens unless we do that.
You can unless you find a equitable amount of energy from somewhere other than wind and solar that are not 100% all the time.
It's destroying this planet. I say that is criminal activity. That
Which
cannot be allowed.
I am still a big fan of nuclear energy, and none of them have brought it up yet.
I would just say, I didn't say we couldn't get there till 2040, Bernie. You don't have to yell. I mean, all I'm saying is, we.
Man, they are going after Bernie hard this one.
And if we're waiting for 2040 for a ban to come in on gasoline vehicles, we're screwed. So we better get
Heckin' Bernie.
now, and that's why I'm saying, get a chief manufacturing officer, align the environmental incentives with the financial incentives, and make sure that people can actually make money off of the new technologies that are moving forward. And then here's what I'll do as president: cut the worker in on the deal. Make sure these are union jobs, and I will double union membership to make sure that these new jobs pay what the old fossil
But
fuel jobs
the
pay.
companies are not going to go to.
On this issue,
You can't. Okay.
my friends,
The fossil fuel industry
We have got to
takes
be
all of its
super
business
aggressive
to states with
if we love our children.
fair, right to fire.
That is healthy and is habitable.
Right.
I don't disagree with Tim. What that means is we gotta
They
end
work.
on the fossil fuel
Gasoline, coal industry is in Texas, West Virginia, states that they don't have. The unions have zero power. Zero power. Compared to someplace like Michigan or California.
Thank you, Senator. And we have to lead the world.
Thank you, Senator
that this
Sanders.
is not just an American issue.
Governor
So he would force a state like Texas to try to have unions that are very, very inefficient at getting anything done here in this state.
Won't even acknowledge that climate change is real, Dana. And that's because of the corrupting influence and money. That has been the fight of my career. And second of which, as we transition to this
Part of the problem with the
you gotta recognize there are folks that have
people that don't believe in climate change is because it took y'all 30 semis to put this freaking stage together. It's the fact that guys like Al Gore who have been spewing global warming take private jets around the world. The normal person is looking at this person that's saying, "Oh, we need to work on climate change. We need to work on climate change." Why are you taking a private jet? Why are you not flying first class with a bunch of other people? Why are you not trying to save as much energy as possible when you're doing other things? If you're a hypocrite, what makes me want to believe in you?
And we can talk about competing
Thank
plans.
you, Governor. I want to give Senator Sanders.
Well, of course, Allie. Of course, riding with the plebeians is not what anybody wants to do.
More strongly pro-worker than I. So
Yeah.
I talk about taking on the fossil fuel industry.
One of my biggest gripes about Al Gore and his global warming escapades last decade was the biggest fact that he would fly in a private jet everywhere. His house used more energy than an entire neighborhood. His one house used more energy than an entire neighborhood of Americans. All he did was buy carbon taxes from his company that he built to sell carbon credits.
I fought day after day.
No, I don't, Ducky. What I'm saying is this is the reason why the normal Joe Schmo in the street has a hard time believing the seriousness of an issue like climate change.
You can do both, but let's actually have the scientists drive this. Let's not just talk about plans that are written for press releases, but we'll go nowhere else if we can't even get a Republican to acknowledge that the climate's changing.
Congressman O'Rourke,
I've
your
listened to
response.
scientists on this, and they're very
See,
clear.
Parrot Poner,
We have
that's
more
a
than 10
little
years
bit aggressive,
to get
sir.
this right. And we won't meet that challenge with half steps or half measures. Or only
That's
half
something we don't
steps.
approve of here.
Bring
I'm all
everyone
for
into the
discussing and having a conversation, but calling people names.
Challenge. They want those jobs. They want to create the future for this country and the world. Those community college students that I met in Tucumcari, New Mexico, understand that wind and solar jobs.
I mean,
are the
you're not
fastest
wrong,
growing
Allie.
jobs in the country. And those
But
farmers
what I'm
in
saying
Iowa
is,
say, "Pay me
it
for
makes it
environmental
hard to
services,
sell something to somebody if you're not
more land in conservation easements."
living
That's
that
how we
life
meet
as
the
well.
challenge. We do it with everyone in this country. We bring everyone into the solution.
Now, if
Your response.
We have all put out highly similar.
true, Ducky, if you never leave your mother's basement, you never have to worry about climate change.
Deal with climate if and only if we win.
He is testifying,
If and
Jangles.
only if we beat Donald Trump.
There's no climate. Climate is regulated by my air conditioning.
Stand next to an American war veteran and explain why he chose to pretend to be disabled when it was his chance to serve. Nominate me and we will have a different conversation with American voters about why the President of the United States thinks you're a sucker, when the problem in your life is your paycheck is not going up nearly as fast as the cost of housing or the cost of education or the cost of prescription drugs. He has done nothing about it except
AC switches to heat. Boom!
Senator Klobuchar, I want to ask you about something that CNN heard from a Michigan Democratic primary voter. We've been reaching out and getting their questions. Kimber from Birmingham, Michigan has this question. What is your plan to address infrastructure, including the water issues, so another Flint, Michigan does not happen again?
Thank you, Dana. And I was just in Flint. and they are still drinking bottled water in that town, and that is outrageous. So my plan, and I am the first one that came out with an infrastructure plan, and I did that because this is a bread and butter issue. It's a bread and butter issue for people that are caught in traffic jams. I think the governor here in Michigan smartly ran on the slogan, "Fix the damn roads." And it is an issue for union jobs. And so I think what we need to do is not have a president that's
I agree.
going to do that on election night, if anyone
Bottled water is delicious. I mean,
he has done nothing. He blew up a meeting at the White House.
It depends on the brand.
$1 million into this, and I would pay for it by, first of all, changing the capital
Filtered water
gains
is delicious.
By doing something when it comes to that regressive tax bill that left everyone behind, but really made his Mar-a-Lago friends richer, as he promised. And I would take that money.
I prefer my water with a bunch of beans that have sat in hot water.
The African neighborhood that was African American neighborhood.
Oh, this one's just a generic brand from the grocery store.
And I truly believe that if we're going to
Poop beans? Not yet, Allie. One of these days I will have Kawadi poop beans. If somebody wants to buy me a bag of Kawadi poop beans, I will drink it on stream.
On the Flint water crisis is that Flint is just the tip of the iceberg. I was recently in Denmark, South Carolina, where there is a lot of
Reported for self-harm. But it's supposed to be like the best coffee in the world, Ducky. It's supposed to be like up here, the caviar of coffee.
Communities all over this country who are suffering.
No, it's not poo. They've been cleaned. They've just been digested already by a Kawadi and then defecated and then cleaned and then roasted. I mean, coffee makes me poo already.
And the entire conversation that we're having here tonight, if you think any of this wonkiness is going to deal with this dark psychic force of the collectivized hatred that this president is
oh, goodness, why? Williamson, why?
Very dark days. We need to say it like it is. It's bigger than Flint. It's all over this country. It's particularly people of color.
Allie, you missed the most genius thing she said tonight, though. She called out everybody else on that stage, and it was amazing. I mean, Fimple, I don't kink shame. It's a little bit gross, but I don't kink shame. No. Everybody was talking about how corporations' money is going into politics and that they're going to fix the corporations' money going into politics. And she said, all these people talking this smack, they're the ones taking the money from corporations.
We'll call his racism out for what it is and also talk about its consequences. It doesn't just offend our sensibilities to hear him say, send her back.
Tinder's too tame. Yeah, it was a great statement.
Congress, because she's a woman of color, because
look, Allie, I don't disagree. I think she's kooky and weird, and she's nowhere going to. But I like the fact he didn't enforce a ban to ban all Muslims. O'Rourke, you're an idiot. He banned travel from countries that are terrorist hotbeds, just like Obama did.
The mosque in Victoria, Texas, was burned.
Just like Obama did the exact same thing he did.
Against Donald Trump and in this next election.
He's from El Paso. Williamson's from my state too, Jangles.
That's what we've learned in El Paso, Texas, my hometown. One of the safest.
He also didn't call all Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said we need to enforce our borders to ensure that the people coming over aren't rapists and murderers. But you know, we'll keep going on these things that have been spewed out all over the place. And I'm not a fan of Trump.
Well, the core value
I am not a fan of Trump.
Country's history is working towards a more perfect.
Thank you, Ducks.
All people are created equal, and we've fallen far away from that.
See, Fimple, now you're going to find yourself gone forever.
In case that we can deliver an urban agenda that represents progress in schools. Colorado.
No regrets. No regrets. I'm gonna get that tattooed right here across my chest.
We did major police reform.
I know he's from your state, Jangles.
5 years after Ferguson, we still don't have anything.
Yeah, exactly, Allie.
We need a scholarship fund for every kid. You got to deliver a vision like that for the whole country.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Warren, I'm coming to you now. Last week, the FBI Director Christopher Wray said that the majority of domestic terrorism cases this year have been motivated by white supremacy. In fact, the alleged shooter in this weekend's attack in Gilroy, California, referenced a well-known white supremacist book on social media. How are you going to combat the rise of white supremacy?
We need to call out white supremacy for what it is, domestic terrorism, and it poses a threat to the United States of America. We live in a country now where the president is advancing
Yes, burn books, Jingles.
racism, economic racism, criminal justice racism.
It would stop racism,
healthcare
Allie.
racism. The way we do better is to fight back and show something better. So I have a plan, for example, on education that says we have to build a better education system for all our kids, but we've got to acknowledge what's happened.
Tits out,
already.
folks.
So my plan has universal tuition-free college for all of our kids, but also increases the Pell Grants and levels the playing field by putting $50 billion.
Level the playing field by trying to push kids to trade school. By trying to push kids to things other than college, where most of them won't succeed and won't get a degree that will actually help them in life. I'm down with tits out for freedom. That's going to be my campaign slogan, guys. Tits out for freedom.
From diversity in the police force to housing policy. Given your record, how can you convince African Americans that you should be the Democratic nominee?
I am all for making the cost of college go down. I'm all for helping those who have been struggling with paying off their student loan debt. I have a problem with them continuously pushing everybody should go to college. Everybody should go to college. Everybody should go to college. You know who shouldn't go to college? The kid who couldn't comprehend basic math in high school. They shouldn't go to college. But now you're saying you should go to college for free.
The community is moving from hurting to healing by making sure that the community can participate in things.
Yeah, Allie, you could be my VP.
Use of force policy and making sure there are community voices in safety that handles police matters. I proposed a Douglas plan to tackle this issue nationally,
Right?
because mayors have hit the
Give me $70,000 right now. Just give me $70,000 to pay off college student loan debts.
From housing to
Do
health
it.
to home ownership. If you walk into an emergency room and you are black,
I
your
do.
reports of pain will be taken less seriously. If you apply for a job and you are black, you are less likely to be called just because of the name on the resume. It's why I've proposed that we do everything from investing in historically redlined neighborhoods to
Really?
build black
Booty,
wealth in home
Buttigieg,
ownership.
I would like to see where you're getting your data from.
Thank you very much. Senator Klobuchar.
Because that would be against the law to do
What
that.
do you say to those Trump voters who prioritize the economy over the president's bigotry?
Well, first of all, there are people that voted for Donald Trump before.
I also think that we shouldn't have to put our names,
And so I would appeal to
sex,
them.
or race
But
onto
I
a
don't think
application for a
anyone
job.
can justify what this president is doing. Little kids literally woke up this weekend, turned on the TV, and saw their president calling their city, the town of Baltimore, nothing more than a home for rats. And I can tell you,
I think if you want the most fair way of hiring and giving people the best applicable people for the job is by removing their name, race, and sex off of those forms. Giving them a number that they can reference. That way there is no inkling of racial disparity, sexual
We
disparity.
help the African American community, and we must, because they have been the ones that have been most
I think that's a smart move.
by what we've seen in the last
That way you get the most qualified individual for the job, you get the most qualified individual for schools.
parts of my state, just like I say in the city, and bring them together.
Baltimore is a giant freaking crap hole. The people of Baltimore think that it's a giant crap hole.
Touching on, which is the very foundation of this country, the wealth that we have built, the way we became the largest country on the face of the planet.
Like, if somebody was to come to say to me, you know why Houston sucks? Because it's humid, it's hot, and it's in Texas. I'd be like, you're not wrong. It'll hurt my 2020 chances. I know. It has a bunch of brown people in your city. Yep, you're damn right. We have a crime rate that is comparable to any other large city. It totally is, Ducky.
Ms. Williams,
I agree, Thumper. Houston doesn't
many of
suck.
your opponents support a commission to study the issue of reparations for slavery. But you are calling for up to $500 billion in financial assistance. What makes you qualified to determine how much is owed in reparations?
Well, first of all, it's not $500 billion in financial assistance. It's $500 billion, $200 to $500 billion payment of a debt that is owed. That is what reparations is. We need some deep truth-telling when it comes. We don't need another commission to look at evidence. I appreciate what Congressman O'Rourke has said. It is time for us to...
Yeah, Jingles, and we got even more Cajun restaurants because of it.
All that the country is a collection of people.
Our crime rate did go up when most of the people from New Orleans moved out here, but it's gone back to normal again.
Between blacks and whites in America, it does come from a great...
Food, good trade-off. I'm down, dude. I'm like telling you. Bring me more Cajun food.
Has had to do with the fact that there was 250 years of slavery, followed by another 100 years of domestic terrorism. What makes me qualified to say 200 to $500 billion? I'll tell you what makes me qualified. If you did the math of the 40 acres and a mule, given that there was 4 to 5 million slaves at the end of the Civil War, there were 4 to 5, and they were all promised 40 acres and a mule for every family of 4. If you
Yep,
did the math
I do,
today,
Ducky.
Trillions of dollars.
I do remember that.
Than anything less than $100 billion.
That's the only way to acquire a house. You didn't know?
To $500 billion is politically feasible today because so many Americans realize there is an injustice that continues to form a toxicity underneath the surface, an emotional turbulence that only reparations.
Thank you very much. Senator Sanders. Senator Sanders, you don't think cash payments are the best way to address this issue, but according to a new Gallup poll, 73% of African Americans are in favor of cash payments to black Americans who are descendants of slaves. How do you respond to them?
Well, I respond to that by saying that I am supportive of...
Hold on. I'm pausing this for a second. He just said a Gallup poll of African Americans, 74% approve of payments to those people who are descendants of slaves. Let's think about this for a second. Hey, Jangles, and Allie and Ducky, and anybody else out there, I'm going to give you $1,000 for free for not doing anything. Do you agree? Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think that's a good idea? I need to know in a poll. I'm going to give you $1,000 for doing nothing. All you got to do is say you want it. I didn't think of that. Oh yeah, true. No, what I'm saying is, if you're asking people if they believe that getting money for doing nothing is a good thing for them, of course they're going to say yes.
For 10, 20, 30. And what that understands is that as a result of slavery and segregation
exactly.
and the institutional racism we see now in healthcare, in education,
73% of African Americans asked, Jangles. Right? 73% of African Americans who are in favor of reparations.
In terms of education, I also have a plan.
No, that's not how it's going to be posted. But what I'm saying is that's basically the extent of it. Is you are the descendant of somebody who had horrific things done to you. Do you want free money? All right. Yes, of course. I'm going to say yes. Shoot. You can give me money for reparations. I will take it. No idea, Jangles. Like, this is another thing is, okay, how are you funding your reparations? Are you going to take it from the base of your tax income into the money that's been taxed? Are you going to take it from that and basically just going to give people money from your base bank account from all the taxes, which we're already overspending what we make in taxes anyways, so it doesn't really matter. Are you going to do that? I have an idea to solve the national debt. Do it. Ducky. Oh my goodness. I cannot believe you just said print more money. And so are you going to take it from the tax base? So in essence, you're saying we'll give you reparations, but first we're going to take from your income that you're taking to pay for the reparations to give you back money. But don't worry, because everybody in the country is going to be paying into the reparations. Or are you going to go and say, how else would you validate whether somebody was a descendant from a slave? Like, I have a friend who is a descendant of a slave and a descendant of a slave owner. Does she pay herself? Like, is that what's going to happen? Me personally, I am the descendant of a slaveholder. It's not something I'm proud of. It's an interesting fact of my family that my family owned slaves back before the Civil War in Louisiana. Not all of my family, just 1/4 of my family. You know, because of something that I had no control over, and something that is 6 generations away from me, I should pay into this reparations. Like, you're going to punish me. Like, the sins of the father is not a reason to punish somebody and to tax somebody. I agree that we need to do more to help out our African American communities, but we can't just completely, here's money because you are a descendant of something else. You're a descendant of somebody who's gone through a hardship. Are we giving reparations to all the Japanese Americans that were put in internment camps for the entirety of the World War II? Are we going to start doing reparations for, the Hispanic Americans that were, shot and killed on the border states during, the 19th century? This to me, this becomes an issue more so of where do you stop doing it and what qualifies somebody to receive reparations. Like, if I can link myself to, a slave up way back in the back, do I get reparations now too? Do I get help as well? Even though I don't look physically black. Just play music link counts.
Congressman Ryan, President Trump's tariffs have boosted the U.S. steel industry, but hurt auto manufacturers like those here in Michigan, which could drive up the cost of cars. As president, would you continue President Trump's steel tariffs?
Look, I think President Trump was onto something when he talked about China.
The problem is, American steel is the best in the world.
They steal
American cars
they subsidize goods
are not.
They displaced steel workers, auto workers across the board, eroded our manufacturing, and we basically transferred our wealth of our middle class.
Like, American steel, best in the world. American cars, not.
For them to build their military. So I think we need some targeted response against China. But you know how you beat China? You outcompete them. And that's why I put a chief manufacturing officer in place to make sure that we rebuild the manufacturing base. We've got to fill these factories that in Detroit and Youngstown that used to make cars and steel. We've got to fill them with workers who are making electric vehicles, batteries, charging stations, make sure that...
Oh, no, it sure does, Jangles.
China dominates 60% of the solar panel market.
So now you're going to force automakers to hire people that they don't have jobs for anymore.
In the next 10 years. I want to made in the United States. That's why I have a chief manufacturing officer that will sit in
the auto industry is going automated year after year, more and more.
Trump steel tariffs, yes or no?
Well, I would have to reevaluate. I think some of them are effective, but he's bungled the whole thing, obviously. See, here's the problem with President Trump. He has a tactical move, one of many.
I know, Jangles.
He has a tactical move.
And that's part of the reason why the auto industry had to be bailed out.
China has a 100-year plan, a 50-year plan, a 30-year plan, a 20-year plan. We live in a 24-hour news cycle. That spells disaster for our economy and disaster for our global politics.
Thank you, Congressman. Congressman Delaney, your response.
So listen, this is what I don't understand. President Trump wants to build physical walls and beats up on immigrants. Most of the folks running for president want to build economic walls to free trade and beat up on President Obama. I'm the only one running for president who actually supports the Trans-Pacific Partnership. President Obama was right about that.
No, he wasn't.
Getting back in that. Senator Warren
No, he wasn't.
issued a trade plan that would prevent the United States from trading with its allies.
Who needs them? Who needs economics? Why do I need economics? I don't know economics. Who is he?
For decades, we have had a trade policy that has been written by giant multinational corporations to help giant multinational corporations. They have no loyalty to America. They have no patriotism. If they can save a nickel by moving a job to Mexico, they'll do it in a heartbeat. If they can continue a polluting plant by moving it to Vietnam, they'll do it in a heartbeat. I have put out a new comprehensive plan that says we're not going to do it that way. We're going to negotiate our deals with unions at the table, with small businesses at the table, with small farmers at the table, with environmentalists at the table, with human rights activists at the table. And then we're going to use the fact that everybody in the world wants to get to America's markets. They want to sell to you.
Congressman Delaney. Sorry.
Is everyone wants to get to America's markets?
Whisper, I love your face too. Thank you.
Senator, thank you. Please abide by the rules. Congressman Delaney, it's your turn. Thank you, Senator. Congressman Delaney.
So that was the Trans-Pacific Partnership. I think President Obama was right. He did include environmental standards. He did include labor standards. We would be in an entirely different position with China if we had entered the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We can't
we did enter the TPP, and it caused the American market to get flooded with cheap Chinese products.
We would not be able to trade with the United Kingdom. We would not be able to trade with the EU. It is so extreme that it'll isolate the American economy from the rest of the world.
Senator. Senator Warren.
Notice what I think he said.
Senator Sanders, please let Senator Warren respond.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What the congressman is describing as extreme is having deals that are negotiated by American workers for American workers. American workers.
The TPP never tried to work that.
People want access to our markets all around the world.
Yeah, of course they do. Because the United States has the most expendable money in the entire world. There are 350 million people living here who are better off than 90% of the entire world. Of course they want to sell in the United States.
Right now, the whole game is working for the big multinationals. It's just not working for the people here in the United States.
Because we've moved away from a industrial nation.
They're a huge mistake. They constitute the largest tax.
Oh goodness, I'm sad I missed out, Ali.
We're hitting the middle class and the working poor especially hard, and farmers in Iowa and across the country are bearing the brunt of the consequences. When have we ever gone to war, including a trade war, without allies and friends and partners? As president, we will hold China accountable, but we will bring our allies and friends like the European Union to bear, and we'll also trade deals.
Mexican-American War, Spanish-American War,
human rights and the environment.
Iraq.
Thank you very much. Senator Sanders, please respond to Congressman O'Rourke.
You're looking, I believe, at the only member of Congress who not only voted against these disastrous trade agreements, NAFTA, PNTR with China, which cost us over 4 million jobs.
The UK is
also helped lead the effort against these agreements.
Ever since the UK lost all of its colonies, it's needed to follow the United States everywhere.
Anybody here thinks that corporate America gives one damn about the average American worker, you're mistaken. If they can save 5 cents by going to China, Mexico, or Vietnam, or any place else, that's exactly what they would do. As president,
that's what they've already done, Bernie.
Line up at the federal
That's what they've already done, Bernie.
Contracts, they want all kinds of contracts. Well, under my administration...
Oh, Ali. Perfect idea for the next debate.
Thank you very much. Governor Hickenlooper, your response.
True, Jangles, we weren't.
Again, I think Congressman Delaney has got
a
point.
Yeah, he is, Ducky.
A way of looking at trade that is therapeutic. The bottom line is, you talk to any economist, there is not a single example in history where a trade war had a winner.
Shark him!
Trade wars are for losers. And the bottom line is, you got to recognize, let's negotiate a better trade deal, but you're not going to win against China in a trade war when they've got 25% of our total debt, and step back and look at, here's Trump gives a giant tax cut, and at the same time, so we're paying in tariffs about $800 to $1,200 per household, and then we give this incredible tax cut to the rich. Essentially, what's happening is now he's transferred that tax obligation onto the middle class. That's what's outrageous, but tariffs are not the solution.
Governor, thank you. Senator Warren.
Anyone who thinks that these trade deals are mostly about tariffs just doesn't understand what's going on. Look at the new NAFTA 2.0. What's the central feature? It's to help pharmaceutical companies get longer periods of exclusivity so they can charge Canadians, Americans, and Mexicans more money and make more profit.
She's actually right there.
For giant multinationals to change the regulatory environment so they can suck more profits.
You played Age of Empires 3, so you are an expert on trade? Okay. I played Civilization 6, so I know international diplomacy.
Senator, thank you. Governor Bullock, your response?
You know, Farmer and Rippey said to me, every time that Trump tweets, we lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. If Montana had to eat all the wheat that we produce,
We can rule. Civilization 6 here, Age of Empires 3, we know exactly how to run the government.
I actually agree with Senator
Telling you,
Warren on this.
Pirate King in 2020.
Corporations can move capital easy. Workers can't. So
No, he's going to be my Secretary of Trade, obviously, Allie.
actually are protecting, thinking about the workers. They can't be the stepchild, but the way to do it.
Oh, God. Don't start that. We are not the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Jingles.
A fair deal for farmers anywhere.
Allie, no. Ducky's going to be my Secretary of Trade, obviously.
Thank you very much. Mayor, stand by, please. Stand by, please. Please abide by the rules. Mayor Buttigieg.
I voted for Allie to be my vice president so far, maybe. I told you. Biggest donator to my campaign fund will definitely get a Secretary of State job, though. Of course you are, Ducky. I'm all for trading with Korea. We need more K-pop in this world.
This happened in my community 20 years before I was born, and when I was growing up, we were still picking up the pieces. Empty factories, empty houses, poverty. I know exactly what happens to a community.
The United States is no longer an industrialized nation. We are moved to a service-based economy.
Do retraining. We're doing it now in South Bend. We should continue to do it, but this is so much bigger than a trade fight.
Well, once I start my, I'm going to start my PieRatKing 2020 slush fund, Mimi, and it'll be on GoFundMe.
In their lifetime. It's why I've proposed that we allow gig workers to unionize, because a gig is a job and a worker is a worker.
I have to pay for all the hookers and blow.
To all of these changes, and
As soon as I get it started, Mimi.
Confronting tech, in addition to supporting workers by doubling unionization, as I propose to do. Some of this is low tech too, like the minimum wage is just too low, and so-called conservative Christian senators right now in the Senate are blocking a bill to raise the minimum wage, when Scripture says that whoever oppresses the poor taunts their maker.
Because in essence, you're going to cost a lot more jobs by raising it.
Is more than $65 million. That would make you
Yes, meaning booze, of course, Jingles.
On the assets of the richest 75,000 homes, households, or so in the United States. Do you think Senator Warren's wealth tax is a fair way to fund child care and education?
I think wealthy Americans have to pay more. Listen, I grew up in a blue-collar family. First in my family to go to college, became a successful entrepreneur, created thousands of jobs, supported thousands of entrepreneurs all around this country, and I've done well financially. I think I should pay more in tax. I think wealthy Americans should pay more in tax.
Then why don't you?
We have to have a real solution.
Then why don't you already pay? You can voluntarily pay more in taxes.
There's no reason why people who invest for a living should pay less than people who work for a living. That's ridiculous. It's the biggest loophole in our tax code. We act like wealthy individuals are endangered species. And if we don't raise their taxes, they won't invest. That's
because they are.
We get more revenues from wealthy individuals.
They are.
The Trump tax cuts to wealthy individuals.
There's a reason why they're 1%.
It's arguably unconstitutional, and the
1%.
have largely abandoned it because it's impossible to implement. But here again, real solutions, not impossible promises.
Thank you.
Raise the capital gains tax, roll back the taxes on
Pull the lever, Crunk. We act like wealthy people are endangered.
It's time to tax.
They're only 1%.
1% of fortunes in this country. Your first $50 million you can keep free and clear, but your 50 millionth and first dollar, you got to pitch in 2 cents. 2 cents. What can America do with 2 cents? We can provide universal.
Wait a minute. She just said, if you make less than $15 million, no taxes. She's got my freaking vote. She's got my freaking vote. I will pay 0 tax for the rest of my life. $50,000, $50 million, no tax. I'm down. Let's go.
We can put $50 billion into our
That's not what she meant, but that's what she said.
Universities, and we can cancel student loan debt for 95% of the people who have it and start to close the wealth gap in America.
Guess what happens, Warren? Ask New York City where all their rich people have moved to.
2 cents from the wealthiest in this country would let us invest in the rest of America.
This is not about whether wealthy. This is not about whether wealthy Americans should pay more. I think we're all in agreement on that. It's a question of, do you have a real solution to make it happen? We can raise the capital gains rate to match the ordinary income. You know, the last president,
They went to Jersey.
actually Ronald Reagan. We can do that.
They went to Pennsylvania. They went to Rhode Island.
Double the earned income tax credit. I've called for the expansion of.
They moved out of New York City because that way their income doesn't get taxed crazily.
Through an additional tax on high net worth individuals. But we don't need to come
They moved to Florida.
Thank you, Congressman Delaney.
Will be fought in court for years.
It should be. Of course it is.
Hang out, hurry up, you better take a guess.
Thank you for the sparks.
Under Senator Sanders' proposal
Yes.
to cancel all student loan debt, yours would immediately be wiped away. Why wouldn't you support that?
That'd be great for us. And then the next day, there would be a student loan program, and people would be out taking student loans, wondering why they weren't lucky enough in timing to get theirs wiped away completely too. We can have debt-free college for low and middle-income students by expanding Pell Grants and compelling states to pick up more of the burden. And on the back end, for those of us who do have a lot of debt,
yeah!
Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, which is an excellent program that is almost impossible to actually get access to right now. We can take these steps and have an approach that is actually fair. If we want to
You
start
know,
wiping away student debt, here's where
Pell
we
Grant
start.
by itself, if you apply for it,
That took advantage of people, especially veterans, by the way. The moment I redeployed, my Facebook ad feed started filling with ads from these for-profit colleges. Under President Obama, they were held accountable for whether they delivered the results. President Trump, under a Secretary of Education, who regrettably is from this state, did away with those rules. There's no accountability. On my watch, those colleges that
you mean like the University of Phoenix or Art Institute or ITT Tech that exploded all over everywhere, and their degrees are not as well.
Massive level of income and wealth inequality in America. You got 3 people
You know,
wealth at the bottom, 90%.
they're not seen.
You got top 1% that owns more wealth.
Somebody from that goes through ITT Tech, their degree is not from an accredited university or college, so that way their degree means less than somebody who got a liberal arts degree in the University of Texas. Even though they know exactly the same amount of stuff that somebody with the exact same amount of college and education in the exact same field.
But they have got to start paying their fair share of taxes.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. Ms. Williamson, you are proposing to make college free for all qualified students. Should the government pay for children from wealthier families to go to college?
I think that all domestic and international policy should be based on the idea that anything we do to help people thrive is a stimulation to our economy. That's how you stimulate your economy. So if a few people take advantage, but there are 4 or 5 people who are going to take the money that they then have in the bank. When you look at this $1.5 trillion college debt, this is why I agree with Bernie, or I would be okay, why don't we a $2
She does.
tax cut, where 83 cents of every dollar goes to the very, very richest among us, that does not stimulate the economy. If we get rid of this college debt, think of all the young people who will have the discretionary spending. They'll be able to start their business. The best thing you could do to stimulate the U.S. economy is to get rid of this debt. This is not just about a plan to...
The economy is stimulated!
...governing. And I've heard some people here today...
The economy is stimulated already!
You seem to think there's something wrong about using the instruments of government to help people. That is what government should do. All policies should help people thrive. That is how we will have peace, and that is how we will have prosperity.
Thank you, Ms. Williamson. Congressman O'Rourke, you don't support free four-year college. Your response to Ms. Williamson?
I support free two-year college. Earn that associate's degree, realize your full potential, debt-free four-year college. But unlike some of the other candidates on the stage, that's not just for tuition. That is room and books and board, the full cost of being able to better yourself so that you can better this country. And then for that school teacher, who in many places like Texas is working a second or a third job, full forgiveness for her outstanding student loan debt, forgiveness for that person willing to work at the VA and serve our former service members. And we do not do that at the expense of unions. We elevate them as well and make it easier to join an apprenticeship to learn a skill or a trade that you can command for the rest of your life.
Thank you, Congressman. Senator Klobuchar.
It's already easy to go into an apprenticeship. The problem is nobody pushes kids to go into them.
Focusing our resources on the people that need it most. And my problem with some of these plans is they literally would pay for wealthy kids, for Wall Street kids to go to college. There's no difference. It says everyone is free. I don't think that makes sense. And I'm very concerned if we do things like that, the debt we're going to pass on to the next generation and the next generation. So what I would do about student loan debt is that I would allow people to refinance it at a better rate, and I would make sure that we improve those student loan repayment programs for our teachers and expand them so that you literally over 5-10 years can get it paid for if you go into occupations where we don't have enough workers. I think we need to mesh what we were just talking about with the economy with our education policy.
Thank you, Senator. I want to turn to foreign policy now.
Yes, you can, Mimi. Thank you. You can get a free two-year degree already with most community colleges.
You said the exact same thing on a debate stage in 2016. If voters are hearing the same message from you and President Trump on the issue of military intervention, how should they expect that you will be any different from him?
Trump is a pathological liar. I tell the truth.
Oh, really, Bernie? Because you've said a lot of lies already today.
We have been in Afghanistan, I think, 18 years. In Iraq, 16 or 17 years. We have spent $5 trillion on the war on terror. And there are probably more terrorists out there now than before it began. We're going to spend, the Congress passed, and I will not vote for, a $715 billion military budget, more than the 10 next countries combined.
Because we defend the 10 next countries.
That focuses on diplomacy, ending conflicts by people sitting at a table, not by killing each other. As President of the United States, I will go to the United Nations and not denigrate it, not attack it.
Here's my problem. We always talk about the military spending when it comes to the federal budget. And I think I've touched on it before in previous PieRat TVs. We always talk about the military spending. The biggest problem with it is that nobody understands what the spending of the federal government goes to. The federal government spending goes to education, it goes to they have different sets, all right? There's two things that the federal government is the only provider for, coming money-wise. The VA and military. Those are the two things that the United States federal government pays for 100% with no money from the states. Now, education, paid for by both federal and state. Transportation, federal, state. Both of them put into it. So the United States military and the VA are completely 100% backed by the federal government, and they're the only ones paying for it. That's one of the reasons why military spending is astronomically bigger than the Department of Education, or the Department of Transportation, or the Department of Agriculture. That's why, because those things are also shared between all the states and the federal government. On top of it,
is that view wrong?
There are so many countries that we have agreements with, that we are allies with: Costa Rica, Panama, some of the South African countries, some of the Middle Eastern countries. Israel is one of them. Most of Europe, anybody part of NATO, they all rely on the United States military being the biggest and best in the world, which it is,
That doesn't make any sense.
to help defend them from any aggressor. This is why the United States government puts so much money into the military budget. And everybody always brings it up. Oh, we spend so much more on military than we do education, we do on health. Of course we do. Of course we do.
Much of it done outside of
Because we have commitments to other countries and to our own people to keep them safe from foreign aggressors. Now, I do agree with lessening the amount of fraud, waste, and abuse that happens a lot. I do agree with getting rid of projects that are completely outdated that we're continuously paying because some senator and some representative from Michigan has constituents that work in a factory that build one piece for a 1970s nuclear submarine that's been outdated since the 80s, but they continue to make it because they have a deal to keep making it. What's up, Rabbit?
With the rest of the world, he's taking us out of the climate change.
Sorry for my little rants.
Out of the Iran nuclear agreement, out of the Russian nuclear agreement, and I don't agree with that. And when he was just with Vladimir Putin at the G20, when he was asked about invading our democracy, he made a joke. Hundreds of thousands of Americans have lost their lives on the battlefield to protect our democracy and our right to vote. Four little girls in Birmingham, Alabama, lost their life in a church at the height of the Civil Rights Amendment. So I do believe you meet with people, but you better have an agenda, and you better put our interests of our country first, not the Russians.
Thank you, Senator Klobuchar. Mayor Buttigieg, you served in Afghanistan, where just yesterday 2 U.S. service members were killed. There are currently about 14,000 U.S. service members in Afghanistan. You've said, quote, one thing everybody can agree on is that we're getting out of Afghanistan. Will you withdraw all U.S. service members by the end of your first year in office?
We will withdraw. We have to.
In your first year?
Yes. Look, around the world, we will do whatever it takes to keep
We should have withdrew out of Afghanistan and went into and gone hard in Iraq, but that's just my.
Thought I was turning out the lights.
That's post-war,
Every
is what I'm
time I
thinking
see
of.
news about somebody being killed in Afghanistan, I think about what it was like to hear an explosion over there and wonder whether it was somebody that I served with, somebody that I knew.
Part of the problem is the ROE, there, Buttigieg, and you know this.
We're pretty close to the day when we will wake up to the news of a casualty in Afghanistan.
Rules of engagement for those who don't know what ROE
on
means.
9/11. I was sent into that war by a congressional authorization as well as a president. And we need to talk not only about the need for a president committed to ending endless war, but the fact that Congress has been asleep at the switch. And on my watch, I will propose that any authorization for the use of military force have a 3-year sunset and have to be renewed. Because if men and women in the military have the courage to go serve, members of Congress ought to have summon the courage to vote on whether they ought to be
Thank you, Mayor. I want to bring in Congressman O'Rourke. Congressman O'Rourke, returning to the question of whether you would withdraw all U.S. service members from Afghanistan during your first year in office as president. How do you
I wouldn't say any more, Rabbit. I think we've rebounded, or we've used the war to rebound, but we're not profiting off of Afghanistan anymore. Now, we're profiting off of selling stuff to the Saudis,
from Afghanistan, but also from Iraq,
who have been blowing the hell out of Yemen.
There is no reason for us to be at war all over the world tonight. As president, I will end those wars, and we will not start new wars. We will not send more U.S. service members overseas to sacrifice their lives and to take the lives of others in our name. We can resolve these challenges peacefully and diplomatically.
Oh, yeah.
Governor Hickenlooper, you disagree. You've said that you're open to keeping some service members in Afghanistan beyond your first term.
I look at it as a humanitarian issue, and with all due respect, you're looking at the condition of women. If we completely pull our troops out of there, you're going to see a humanitarian disaster that will startle and frighten every man, woman, and child in this country. And I don't think, we have troops in over 400 different locations around the world. Most of them are small, they're peacekeeping, they're not greatly at risk. we're going to have to be in Afghanistan. Look at the progress that's happened in that country. We're going to turn our backs and walk away from people that have risked their lives to help us and build a different future for Afghanistan and that part of the world?
Thank you, Governor. Senator Warren, you want to make it U.S. policy that the U.S. will never use a nuclear weapon unless another country uses one first. Now, President Obama reportedly considered that policy, but ultimately decided against it. Why should the U.S. tie its own hands with that policy?
Because it makes the world safer. The United States is not going to use nuclear weapons preemptively, and we need to say so to the entire world. It reduces the likelihood that someone miscalculates, someone misunderstands. Our first responsibility is to keep ourselves safe. And what's happening right now with Donald Trump, as they keep expanding the different ways that we have nuclear weapons, the different ways that they could be used, puts us all at risk. You know, we talk about what's happening around the world. I have 3 older brothers who served in the military. I see that they would do anything. Our military is the best on earth, but we should not be asking our military to take on jobs that do not have a military solution. We need to use our diplomatic tools, our economic tools, and if we're going to send someone into war, we better have a plan for how we're going to get them out on the other end.
Thank you, Senator. Governor Bullock, your response to Senator Warren's proposal to the U.S. never use a nuclear weapon first?
I wouldn't want to take that off the table. I think America's strength, we have to be able to say that. Look, never, I hope, certainly in my term or anyone else, would we really even get close to pulling that trigger. But by the same token, America's
JFK
strength,
did.
Look, this president's made America versus America alone.
No, I agree, Rabbit.
Our allies no longer trust us. Our adversaries are with us. But going from a position of strength, we should be negotiating down.
What allies don't trust us? That's what I want to know.
But drawing those lines in sand.
The French have never trusted anybody.
Senator Warren, your response?
Look, we don't expand trust around the world by saying, you know, we might be the first ones to use a nuclear weapon. That puts the entire world at risk and puts us at risk.
How does it put us at risk? That's what I want to know. I want to know, how does that put us at risk?
Negotiations, expanding the opportunities for nuclear proliferation around the world has pulled us out of the deal in Iran, and Iran is now working on its nuclear weapon.
Iran was working on their nuclear weapon even with that deal. I hate to tell you, Warren. Hate to tell you. Look, we have a deal with North Korea to not work on nuclear weapons. Interesting. I wonder if they're really listening.
Part I agree with. But by the same token, like, we need to get back to nuclear.
Well, I mean, Ducky, we were caught spying on all of our friends and family during the Obama administration.
When you actually have Korea,
you know, Edward Snowden and WikiLeaks and all that. Nobody trusts anybody. When it comes to international diplomacy, your allies are the people that aren't going to randomly attack you, but they won't, you know, hesitate to attack you if they need to. That's what ally means.
Part of the strength really is the ability to deter.
Governor, thank you very much. Moving on now. Moving on now, please, Senator. Senator, please. Moving on now. As you know, to serve as President of the United States, all of you know this, you have to be at least 35 years old. So, Mayor Buttigieg, you just qualified. You're 37, the youngest candidate in this field. Standing next to you is the oldest candidate, Bernie Sanders, at age 77. Should voters take into consideration age when choosing a presidential candidate?
I don't care how old you are. I care about your vision. But I do think
Heckin' Bernie.
We have a new generation of leaders stepping up around the world. Leaders like I actually think it's good that the Prime Minister of New Zealand's gotten a lot of attention in Democratic debates. She's masterful. She is younger than I would be when I take office. This is the kind of trend America might be leading instead of following, but only if it's actually backed by the right vision. And we can have great presidents at any age. What I will say
He's
is
reading cue cards
we cannot
from the
have
front.
a vision that amounts to back to normal. The only reason we got this president is that normal didn't work. We have to be ready to take on this president. And by the way, something that hasn't been talked about as much tonight, take on his
baseball signals.
You know,
Wait, did he just tell me to steal third?
When David Duke ran for Congress, whoever ran for governor, the Republican Party 20 years ago ran away from him. Today, they are supporting naked racism in the White House, or at best silent about it. And if you are watching this at home, and you are a Republican member of Congress, consider the fact that when the sun sets on your career, and they are writing your story, of all the good and bad things you did in your life, the thing you will be remembered for is whether in this moment, with this president, you found the courage to stand up to him, or you continue to put party over country.
Thank you, Senator Sanders.
Yeah, no, it really is, Rabbit. All right, like they brought up the racist things he said, and I've already said what their talking points are all wrong, and they continue to spew the talking points that.
And my vision, among other things,
Now,
is that if we're going to fight
some of the stuff he has said has not been very nice. I won't lie about that.
the insurance companies, and I've asked all of the candidates who are running to say they will not accept money from those entities who, in my view, are going to war against the American people in terms of health care. That's a new vision. A new vision says that we must cancel completely student debt because the younger generation in this country today, for the first time in modern American history, will have a lower standard of living than their
No, I don't think we fixed racism. I just a lot of the talking points that they've used are incorrect. And that they have pushed a narrative. I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying that he hasn't said very close things. I didn't feel the way of now. But like they said earlier, oh, he calls all Mexicans rapists and murderers. No, that is not what he said. He said we need to secure our borders to prevent rapists and murderers from coming in this country. That is his actual words. Or the fact that he's banned all Muslims from coming into this country. Again, no, he didn't. He banned the countries that Obama had already banned prior in traveling into this country because they were hotbeds for terrorists. And it's like everybody forgets. A lot of people like completely forget what Obama did. Obama was not like your hard. He would up against these people and what they're saying now. Obama wouldn't get elected and get nominated. Oh yeah, and that's another thing. Bernie said it friggin' four years ago. The exact same thing that Trump said. But Trump is the one that's a racist for saying it, not Bernie. Like I said, I don't like Trump. I also don't like the mischaracterization that things that he said or what he said when they purposely leave things out. They purposely leave the thing out about he said neo-Nazis were fine people. No, he said there was fine people on both sides of the protest. And I'm not talking about neo-Nazis and the race and the KKK. Those guys need to be disparaged. That's the actual quote, and I showed it before. And I think that, like I said, I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist. I'm not saying that Trump isn't a racist. I'm just saying the points that they keep using are incorrect. And it's hard to look at those points and say, well, you're feeding me this, but this is what actually happened. Why are you running on this? And that was my problem with the whole Baltimore thing. Nobody likes Baltimore. The people in Baltimore don't like Baltimore. They don't. I have a friend that complains to me all the time about Baltimore. She's lived there her entire life. But because one person said it, And the reason why the Republican Party ran away from David Duke was because he was a very outspoken racist. But, we can bring up all the other racists that have been elected president. LBJ. Cough, cough. FDR. You know, LBJ even signed the Civil Rights Act. Not because he liked blacks and Hispanics, but because he knew that was something he had to do. No, he really was, Jangles. He was really, like, because of JFK's death, he kind of got put in the place where he had to sign the Civil Rights Act.
Welcome back to the CNN Democratic presidential debate. We have covered a lot of ground tonight. Now it is time for closing statements. You will
closing statements.
1 minute. Governor Bullock, we're going to begin with you.
Thanks, Jake. I was raised in a single-parent household, at times paycheck to paycheck. Only knew there was a governor's house in town because I delivered newspapers to it. So I've made it about 4 blocks in life. Worked my way through college, paid my way through law school. But you know, I had a chance to actually go from delivering newspapers to the governor's house as a kid to now raising our 3 kids in it. We got to recognize for far too many people in America that shot no longer exists. For far too many in this country, it never has. I'm running for president to beat Donald Trump.
Yes, PRK 2020.
We lost.
NoPants Party.
And make sure that Americans know that where Washington has left them behind in their economy and the political system, I'll be there. This isn't a choice just between center and left, or about we don't have to choose between what we don't want and what we can't afford. Folks want a different way. They want to believe the economy and our democracy can work.
Did he just say we don't have to choose between what we don't want and what we can't afford?
Yes. Our problem is not just that we need to defeat Donald Trump. We need
You should always go away from stuff you can't afford.
And white nationalism. And in order to do that, we need more than
basic
insider game and wonkiness.
financial advice.
Those things will not defeat Donald Trump. We need some radical truth-telling. Not just to talk about health care, but talk about why we're so sick all the time. We need to have a serious conversation about race and what is truly owed. Even on the subject of foreign policy, it's all about symptoms and not about...
Man, I am like almost in the camp for Marianne. Like, she's going to be on there with Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang on who I want to win this nomination.
Support our corporate overlords. The fact that our national defense agenda is driven more by short-term profits for defense contractors than by genuine peace building. There's some corruption that is so deep, ladies and gentlemen. And until the Democratic Party is ready to speak to the deeper...
Oh, she didn't even get invited, Jangles. There's a whole mess behind that, and I'll explain it after this is done.
Those who vote for Trump will continue to vote for Trump, and those who might not like Donald Trump will continue to stay home. I want a politics that goes much deeper.
Shark her.
Politics that speaks to the heart. Because the only way to fight, you keep talking about how we're going to fight Donald Trump. You can't fight dog whistles. You have to override them. And the only way you can override them is with new voices. Voices of energy that only come from the
She's got a lot of passion.
Been willing to live up to our own mistakes, atone for our own mistakes, make amends for our own mistakes, love each other, love our democracy, love future generations, something emotional and psychological that will not be emerging from anything on this stage. It will emerge from something I'm the one who's qualified to bring to it.
Thank you, Jake. John F. Kennedy famously said, we should not seek the Republican answer, we should not seek the Democratic answer, we should seek the right answer. He was right when he said it, and he's right today as well. Donald Trump is the symptom of a disease, and the disease is divisiveness. And I'm the only one on the stage talking about curing that disease, with big ideas like national service, by focusing on actually solving problems. If we work together, we can fix healthcare and build infrastructure.
He's lost a lot of Democrats for that.
Technology, but people and entrepreneurs, whether they be in Storm Lake, Iowa, or Detroit, Michigan, or Baltimore, Maryland. We can fight climate change and reimagine our education system. But we have to do it with real solutions, not impossible promises. Isn't it time we had a president who was a leader in both the private sector and in government to lead us into the future? I promise, as president, I will restore vision, unity, and leadership and decency to this country. And that's why I'm running for president. Thank you.
Congressman Ryan.
So in a few minutes, all of the pundits are going to be looking at this debate and saying, well, who captured the left lane and who captured the center lane and who captured the moderate lane? I hope tonight, at some level, I captured your imagination. Your imagination about what this country could be like if we united, if we put together real policies that weren't left or right, but new and better.
A whole new world.
It's new and better. A new and better economy, a new and better education system, a new and better healthcare system that focuses on prevention, an education system that focuses on the trauma of our kids. There's not going to be a savior. Not going to be a superstar.
New World Order? No, thank you.
It's going to be you and me. It's going to be us. That's how we fix this country.
It'll happen, Ducky.
You and I coming together to do
once they complete their buy of Activision and Blizzard, they're coming for the America.
Not left or right. New and better.
Governor Hickenlooper.
Thank you. And what a night. I loved it.
I forgot that he was even there.
Every American to imagine that you are facing
Ducky.
surgery tomorrow. Would you choose a doctor who had a track record of proven success, who'd actually done the work?
Disney is in talks to buy Activision Blizzard.
Facing in this primary. I've actually got a track record as a small business owner, as a mayor, and as a governor. We expanded health.
Well, I mean, other than
universal coverage.
money.
Directly, right? We beat the NRA.
Blizzard has they want to get into esports. Disney wants to get into esports. Easiest way to get into esports is by buying Blizzard.
And I've done the things that most of these other people are just talking about, and I know I can get results.
Because the Overwatch League is one of the bigger esports leagues.
Toward a stronger,
a
healthier, and a more secure future, and defeat Donald Trump and return this country to its glory. Thank you.
Senator Klobuchar.
Well, thank you, Detroit. To win, we have to listen to people. And out there today is Casey Joe's mom. Casey Joe was a champion high school swimmer from a small town. She got sick, went to the emergency room, and got hooked on opioids. The last thing that she said to her mom was, "Mama, it's not my fault." And she died. A lot of Americans say the same thing every day. And that is what I will stand up for, and what I will stand
a little bit
against
smoky.
are companies like those pharma companies that got her hooked on
How's it going, bud?
and didn't tell the doctors or the patients what was going to happen. We need someone.
Williamson talked about how everybody up there is talking about getting corporations out of politics and donating politics, and then she said, well, basically she said everybody up here talking about that has taken money from corporations.
As a prosecutor and get through the gridlock like I've done as a senator, where I've passed over 100 bills where I've been the lead Democrat. And last, yes, I will govern with integrity. We have a president where people turn off their TV when they see him.
Yeah, because
I will make you proud.
Have you seen CNN? I'm going to bring up CNN's website after this is done, and I will show you how many articles are about Trump.
We have ever been. And right now we have a president who uses fear to try to drive us further apart. To meet this challenge, we have to have hope in one another and a faith in a future of this country that includes everyone. My whole life, I've been including people in the success of this country. Starting a small business with high value, high wage, high skilled jobs in the third poorest urban county in America, serving on the city council and holding town hall meetings every single week to remind myself who it is that I serve at the end of the day. And in Congress, being in the minority, but working with Democrats and Republicans alike to deliver for my constituents and this country. And then in Texas, this last year, traveling to every county, not writing anybody off, not taking anyone for granted, and at the end of the day, winning more votes than any Democrat had in the history of the state, winning independence for the first time in decades, and winning nearly 500,000 Republicans. And those 38 electoral college votes in Texas are now in play, and I can win them. That is how we defeat Donald Trump in November of 2020 and how we bring this divided country together again in January of 2021. Thank you.
Mayor Buttigieg.
There's good news and bad news. I'm going to start with the bad news. Our country's in trouble. GDP is going up and life expectancy is going down. Think about what that means. And it's only getting tougher. By 2030, we will have passed the point of no return on climate. There are going to be 130 million more guns on our streets. I'll be in my 40s then. If you have kids, think about how old they will be then. But here's the good news. It's not too late. We can tell our kids that before we ran out of time, just before we ran out of time, in 2020, we did what it took to deliver a climate that we didn't have to wonder if it could support us, to deliver a society where race has no bearing on your health or your wealth or your relationship with law enforcement, that we did what it took to deliver an economy where a rising tide actually does lift all boats. We can do this if and only if we are ready to walk away from what hasn't worked with bold action and win, not only defeat this president, but defeat his congressional allies with a defeat so big that it reunites the Republican Party with its conscience, as well as bringing Democrats to office. Join me and let's make it happen.
Senator Warren.
From the time I was 7 years old, I had a dream. I wanted to be a public school teacher. But my daddy ended up as a janitor, and by the time I graduated from high school, my family didn't have the money to send me off to college. My big chance was what was then a commuter college that cost $50 a semester. For me, what this election is all about is opportunity. Every budget, every policy that we talk about is about who's going to get opportunity. Is it going to go to the billionaires or is it going to go to our kids? Right now, for decades, we have had a government that has been on the side of the rich and the powerful. It has been on the side of the wealthy. And that means it has not been on the side of everyone else, not on the side of people living on our Native American reservations, people living in inner cities, people living in small farms and small communities across this country. How do we beat it?
Well, I mean, Jangles could be 60% Indian from India.
Change. Give people a reason to show up and vote.
What did I miss?
And we beat it by building a grassroots movement across this country, not showing closed doors.
I'm pretty sure Whisper. Sorry, I was reading stuff.
Person by person across this country, with small dollar donations, with volunteers, with people who show up. And
She I have a problem with Warren. I have a huge problem with Warren. Instead of taking responsibility for her mischaracterization of herself, she said, "Oh, I never did that. I don't know what you're talking about." Instead of saying, "Look, okay, yes, I was under the impression that I was a higher percentage of Native American because that was what my family had always said. So I put it on my applications and I took advantage of the opportunities that were allotted to me." Instead of saying that, I would never do that. That was on the university. And that's why if Warren wins the nomination, she's going to lose. Trump has one thing going for him. Trump is a meme magician. The dude makes memes out of everything. And it's one thing that the Democrats can't ever figure out how to do it.
And we bought insulin for 1/10 the price.
He's not in a good way. No, I agree. It's not in a good way. The fact that he calls Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas, though, automatically sparks, oh yeah, she claimed she was Native American for years upon years, got into Harvard, became a professor because of it. But all he has to do is... No, it is child. Ali, I agree with you. It's childish. It's boorish. It's ridiculous that he does it, but he's good at it. And it gets people to think about things when he's talking crap about other people. He is one of the... And that's why you can't have somebody who is going to feed into that game. You can't put a Hillary Clinton. You can't put a Joe Biden or Elizabeth Warren and throw them at Trump and expect to win, because all they're going to do is try to outshout Trump. And they can't outshout Trump because Trump wins that every time. That is his playing field. You need to find somebody who is going to debate actual policies with him, not feed the shouting match that he wants. That's what he wants because he knows he'll win it.
And there you have it.
Because he is good at... Oh, Tulsi is tomorrow. She's right here.
And it certainly lived up to the billing in many ways. We saw
but yeah, no, I was pretty sure Tulsi wasn't going to make it because of the mess that happened with Google and the reason why she's suing Google. I'm going to mute this, though.
Tough questions from...
But Allie, but that's it has very little to deal with being too dumb, because honestly most of the Democrats that I've talked to are pretty stupid as well. The fact that they continue to say that Trump has said extremely racist things when people have shown them videos. This is exactly what he said. It's not as racist as you're trying to make it out to be. You know, he never called neo-Nazis and KKK members fine people. That was just twisted. But they continue to believe whatever, like, and the Democratic nominees do it all the time because it's a good talking point. It's something that catches somebody's attention to use it. So what Trump does is he, like the whole Pocahontas thing, all he has to do is say Elizabeth Warren, oh, you mean Pocahontas? Bam, everybody remembers that she lied on a bunch of her paperwork. And it has nothing to do with being smart or not. It's just, it triggers something in our head that we already know. It has less to do with her actually being Native American and being disparaging to Native Americans. It's more of that's something that she's guilty of doing. He did it so well with Clinton. And that's why she lost, was because she couldn't respond appropriately to the way that he was attacking her. Oh, you acid washed your server. We know. I didn't. Why would I put acid wash on my server? That's not, you know. Oh, you wiped your server. Oh, with a rag? Like, she didn't know how to come back at those kind of things because he was able to say something that instantly makes you think of what they've done wrong instead of thinking about what they're actually trying to propose. No, it's because, I mean, honestly, Warren hasn't done anything. Clinton, you want to talk about fucking up our country? Is screwing up our country? Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, sold a bunch of arms. Well, first, people who donated to the Clinton Foundation got first bids on American arms and weapons that were being sold off to other countries. Then you have Uranium One, of selling one of the largest uranium deposits to Russia. Like, she's screwed up as much as Trump has. Honestly, Trump has not done a horrible job as president. He really hasn't. Our economy is doing a lot better than it was when he took office. Our international relations are the same they were for the past 30 years. They're not horrible. They're not great. Honestly, it's not... No, yes, and that's well, honestly, none of them brought up impeaching Trump tonight, which I'm kind of surprised about. And what they have brought up is things that they want to try to fix without giving, and a lot of the problem is there's 20 people. I mean, I haven't seen anybody talk about Hillary because she's not running this time. They're talking about Biden and the fact that he is super creepy. They're talking about Bernie and the fact that he's doesn't ever stick with one side, and he's been flip-flopping this whole time. What made Bernie Sanders really popular in the first time around was the fact that he was not your normal... He wasn't spewing the same stuff that your normal Democrats were. No, Smokey Bugle, I agree. It is big. Everybody's been spewing impeach, but that's one thing that didn't happen tonight. Last debate, they did say we should impeach Trump. We need to impeach Trump. We need to impeach Trump. But now as they're going further and further, and especially after the Mueller investigation testimony the other day, they realize there's nothing to impeach him for. So they can't continue pushing that impeach Trump thing without losing support of people who are just tired of the whole mess, and just want to move on. And like they continue to bring up Russia and Trump being friends with Putin and stuff like that, and it's like, whatever. Like, it doesn't make it's y'all. MSNBC already proved that that's just bullshit. Yeah. No, there were a lot of tonight was about illegal immigration, which some of them have okay ideas, most of them don't. I'm not like Bernie says we need to protect our borders, but we'll just allow anybody in and decriminalize illegal immigration. So that to me is like, you want to enforce our borders, protect our borders, but not enforce them at the same. Like it's confusing. To me, it's confusing. Williamson's going to get a lot of bump in her poll. I think Delaney might tonight. I don't know. His national service thing is going to rub a lot of people wrong, because people like most libertarians already don't agree with the government forcing people to work for them. And then a lot of the old school liberals, old school Democrats don't want to work for the government. It's just my personal thoughts on him. I think Bernie is going to start going even further down. I think Warren is going to maintain her spot in the polls. And like they said tonight, Bernie said tonight, I would beat, in a poll I saw, on Gallup poll, I saw Trump beat, I would beat Trump in Michigan. And I'm like, yeah, that's what Hillary said 4 years ago. I'm not, I don't know. Most people are just, no, actually, right now, AOC is getting a lot of hate, and some of it is just some of the stuff she says on Twitter. Like, Twitter is really ridiculous right now. I just watch and laugh most of the time. But no, like, okay, so here, this is CNN. I also have MSNBC. This is why people shut off their TVs when Trump comes on. Because let's see all the Trump headlines. 1, 2, 3. I saw another one over here, but I think it scrolled down on the live updates. 4, 5, like 6. All these clicks right here on the front page for CNN. MSNBC is even worse. Let me find MSNBC. Here you go. Deport hate. Trump. 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 Queen. Like, to me, that's why people turn off their TV when Trump comes up. Yeah, GoldenEye. I know, I'm actually going to call it for the night after I'm done right here. But no, what I'm saying is this is why everybody shuts off the TV, because there's everything on here is Trump. Everything. The entire page is Trump on MSNBC. CNN, half the page is Trump on there. And people are just tired of it, because that's all they do is they talk about Trump. They talk about Trump. They talk about more about Trump in 1 month than they did Obama the entire 4 years of his last one. No, did he? I didn't see that one. And that's what I'm saying, Ducky. I'm not trying to say, I'm surprised he's on there. I'm just saying that it's a little bit ridiculous with the amount of Trump all over the news networks. That's why people are shutting off their TV. They're just tired of it because it's the same thing over and over and over every day. And it's one of the reasons why people are moving away from mainstream media. It's one of the reasons why CNN's ratings are failing over and over and over again. That's one of the reasons why MSNBC has one of the worst freaking ratings of all of them. It's when you get the same information over and over and over and over and over and over again, you tune them out and you shut them off and you turn to something else. I'm not a fan of McCarthyism in general, and we had a discussion a while back, Golden and I, about social McCarthyism. I think, and Allie, what I was talking about with you, it's not so much that everybody's bringing up Hillary. They're just using, I use Hillary as this is why the Democrats lost to Trump. And a lot of it had to do with Hillary's ego and believing that she was going to carry over the votes that Obama had in his last election. So she didn't go to visit the states that she lost to Trump. And a lot of that also has to do, a lot of people distrust Hillary, and they don't care for her. So it added to it. My thoughts are, with this election, if the Democrats really, really want to be serious about beating Trump, their candidate is going to have to do something that Delaney said. They're going to have to find that middle road. They're going to have to not try to reach for things that they can't attain now, and find the things that they can attain now. I mean, maybe a little bit of that too, GoldenEye. They're gonna need to find a candidate who is willing to sit down with both sides, such as Andrew Yang or Tulsi Gabbard, and somebody who is willing to listen to both sides and not just, well, I'm right, you're wrong, we need to win. Well, I mean, yeah, I agree with that too, Smokey Bugle. I think people don't feel like they could relate to Hillary. I mean, she did come out and say that she was one of the normal people, even though her net worth was a bunch more than most normal people. No, Golden Knight, I agree. She did resonate with some voters, and she resonated with the loyal. I only vote the D. I almost said that very inappropriately. I only vote Democrat crowd. Just like I know plenty of people that only vote Republican, voted for Trump, even though they're not the biggest fans of Trump. Shoot, I've said worse things friggin' today already. And you're never going to. It's hard to get those people to vote somewhere else. To get those people that are always D. So, but those people are a smaller portion of your voting base compared to the middle area. The centrists, the people that see both sides of what could be good. More concerned about the vote that struck down on increasing electoral security on the state level. I don't know what state was that, GoldenEye? I missed that one. Oh, all 50 states? I didn't miss that one. Well, see, part of the problem is that some people don't want that security in there. And I... No, Chief, I agree that there's a very slim chance that the Democrats will win 2020. I honestly believe Trump will win in a landslide. No, not in a landslide. He'll win pretty heavily come 2020. No, he can't run back again in 2024. Thank goodness. So we'll see when that happens who will be running. I mean, you can vote for me in 2020. I'm of a legal voting or presidential age now. I would be the youngest president ever. Just saying. We at the NoPants Party. 16 months and 16 years. No, it really is. It really is. Which makes it even crazier that we don't have term limits on senators and representatives. That's one of the things I'm all for. We need term limits all across the board. Term limits. No more career politicians. No more, no more, I'm going to spend 60 freaking years as a representative out of, Vermont. Age limits would be a little bit harder to pass, Allie. Just because it's, against the Civil Rights Act. But term limits I'm all for. I like when they fall asleep. 90 years old. I'm running for the representative house from Vermont. Oh, wait. Sorry, that's Bernie in a couple years. Okay, here's the thing about Supreme Court, though. No, I agree, Allie. The Supreme Court has always been... The Supreme Court was purposely made a lifelong position, though. It's a constitutional... It's part of the Constitution that the Supreme Court is for life. And a lot of that has to do... For the Supreme Court, it is. It was purposely done that way. Because the reasoning behind that is... here, I'll even bring it up. Night, Jingles. There, I'll bring it up. The reasoning behind that was for a specific reason of the checks and balances. Here we go. There we go. Right here. Tenure. The Constitution provides judges shall hold their offices during good behavior. So they may serve for the remainder of their lives. And although they may resign or retire voluntarily. But the reason why they did lifelong terms for the Supreme Court. Here, this is why, Smokey Bugle, is because since you have, because the president wasn't given term limits until long after, but your Supreme Court members, until FDR died in office and nobody wanted to have, another 4-term president. The reason why Supreme Courts were for life is because it gave you stability in the judicial system. Because while your president serves four terms, 4 years, and can be voted out, your congressmen, representatives 2 years, your senators 6 years, they can all be voted out. With the Supreme Court justice, they are the longest terms because they give you stability in the one place that needs to have the most stability, and that is your judicial system, to ensure the letter of the law is followed by all in the country. And that's another reason Smokey Bill goes, because that way you don't have a huge wash with every president that comes in. Because there is a chance that most of, other than your senators, because the senators are tapered in such a way that only one group is voted for at the time of the new president coming in, so you still have two groups of senators that are in office, and your representatives are in every 4 years. So there is almost a, if you didn't have those lifelong terms for your Supreme Court justice, you would have an entire regime change all at once. Other than, 2/3 of your Senate, but you could have everybody in your House of Representatives and your president, 1/3 of your Senate, and your entire Supreme Court, the highest court in the entire land, completely changed out, and essentially could give you the chance of where somebody like, say, a new fascist party starts in the United States and somehow gets all this support all of a sudden. And now they've gone in, won the presidency, won the entire House of Representatives, and have 1/3 control of the Senate, and now all of the Supreme Court justice. That's 2/3 of the Senate, 66 senators, who are not, this new super fascist group. So by giving them the life, you have that one place that it's for sure not going to be a complete wash for a brand new, for one side or the other, or one group of individuals who just come to rise to power all of a sudden. And that's another reason why the Senate is staggered in the way that it is, that it's that a senator runs for 6 years, and because they are supposed to represent the states that they're elected from. And they're staggered with, because you vote on your senator, you vote every time there's a vote for representative, there's also a vote for a group of senators, but not all the senators are voted for ever, because they're in there for 6 years. And there's your history lesson for today. I'm interested for tomorrow. Tomorrow night we'll be back right here for more, because the second day of Democratic debates will be going on. Tulsi Gabbard, Andrew Yang, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris, they'll be here. And they'll be talking their stuff. And I'll be interested to see what questions they're posed.
Holy shit.
Thank you for the sparks. You are amazing. I do find it interesting how, for a lot of the debate, man, they were giving Warren and Bernie so much time to talk, and then everybody else was like, "Oh, we got to move on. We got to move on. We got to move on. We got to move on." Like, most of the rest of the field didn't get any chance to talk compared to Bernie and Warren. And I have a problem with that. But I'll have to see the actual stats from like minutes talked later, because they always post that somewhere. Somebody does the actual counting of how long Warren got to talk and how long Bernie got to talk. I like seeing those numbers, because it kind of shows, like, it shows a little bit more than just, what Maya test, which, I felt like Warren and Bernie were given a lot of leeway on talking points and stuff like that compared to Crazy Williamson and the others. But I'll be back on tomorrow night. Thank you guys for hanging out. It really means a lot. Thank you for the sparks, Rabbit. Oh, yeah. I know. Bernie got 18 minutes. Oh, they already have it up? Oh, wow. Thank you for all the sparks, guys. Thanks for all the love. I will see you guys here 6:45 tomorrow Central Time. Spaghetti Monster for 2020. No, it's PRK for 2020. We're running under the NoPants Party, Rabbit. And I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. I will talk to you all tomorrow. Goodbye. No.